in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What's a pity? Tomorrow never certain. What dwells behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannon could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising and hearts are compromising. Conditions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest and the righteous in your corners. Go. Run, 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 make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. Run for the hills, let the will lead the mind. For living is the thrill with the doubt left behind. Amidst all the wicked, there is beauty to behold. We are fearless and intrepid from the depths of our soul. The hands of the steady gleans the rose from the thorn. The sweat of the weary brings us close to the dawn. The motion of the wheel brings the light to the mind. In the align, it's divine. Run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling on your daughters and your sons, they come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling on your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. Run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. Run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it.
Getting started is hard. Getting started is difficult. Why? Why? Testing, 1, 2. Well, you have no momentum. You haven't built up the muscle memory. Your muscles have atrophied. Your skills have atrophied. You've not built up the habits. You don't have the rewards. Again, you don't have the momentum. You're not rolling yet. You have to get over inertia. Getting started is often the hardest part of getting any task accomplished. And today we're going to consider the idea of getting started from the point of view of startups, starting a business. Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ike Ogamian, and I am your host. And over here on this channel, we talk about being better and doing better with a strong emphasis on doing. We keep things measurable, simple, actionable, intuitive. And today we're going to be focusing from a very simple, very simple, granular perspective on getting started. Getting started. And we have a regular guest, Aitoa, aka New Game, aka the president of American Heritage University, and amongst many other things, a person well versed in the world of startups, a person well versed in the world of pushing, getting over that hump, overcoming the momentum. He has started several businesses. He is the president again of a fairly young online university. Hence, I thought that he would be a good person to bring back to the channel to discuss the idea of getting things started. So how you doing, Aitoa? How's it going?
I'm doing well, as always. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So as I said in the intro, we're gonna try to keep things very simple here, This particular stream, we're just gonna go step by step on how to work with new businesses. And I think that before we even get into the starting up of things, let's get to the pre-startup, The pre-startup. What do I mean by that? Before we start, there are questions about, well, what should I start? What should I do? Perhaps why should I start? Some people are out there right now. Let me get a 1 in the chat if this resonates, right? Like some people are out there right now with various little shiny opportunities, opportunities in quotes being dangled in front of them. Someone is telling them to go into some kind of multi-level marketing thing. Someone is telling them to sell weave on Instagram. Someone is saying, oh, over here, I have this Forex trading little thing. Opportunities. But the question is, well, perhaps before we even say, what do I start? And where is my lane? Let me just ask you a very simple question, Why should we start a business, Aitoa? Why should we start a business?
Well, that's always the question. The question says why, and then you realize the moment we can address the why, then the how and the what's, the who, the where, they automatically kick in. So why should we start a business? Well, we should start a business so we can solve other people's problems. It's really just that simple. Every business out there is solving a problem, and the world is full of problems. And sometimes, even you can solve problems that people don't even know exist. I remember back in 2006, the average smartphone had buttons, and Apple says, we're going to solve this problem. We're just going to bring a phone, right? That's just one button and everything's touchscreen. And that gave birth to other business ventures. But the whole point is you start a business to solve a problem.
Why should we start? The world is filled with problems. Problems don't get solved if people don't take initiative. Problems don't get solved if people do not strive to succeed. Yeah, I think that's a very good answer to that question, because a lot of times people personalize it a lot. They think, well, I am okay. Well, number one, for one thing, you're not really okay. You have problems around you that you can actually, solve for, and also then you can solve for other people and so on. So that's a good answer. And I would add to that to say, you need more resources than you think.
Right.
You need more resources than you think. And this may be, leveraging other people's time, other people's money, so on and so forth. This may be a nonprofit that you start, for example, right? So, profit or nonprofit, that's just more of a way of tax designation. Either way, money needs to flow in so that things get done, right? It doesn't matter. Like, you still need to bring resources in. So, but if you want to take it away from that, I don't want to feel like I am being a selfish bastard, then it's like, fine, be an altruist, but still there are problems to be solved. And that's why you should be starting something. And then you also have more untapped potential than you think. Wouldn't you agree?
Always. In fact, most people don't have an idea of how much they're capable of and what's inside of them until they start asking those questions. I'll just give a quick example. I was talking to a young lady. She wants to start a business. And I asked her, I says, tell me in one sentence, what are you good at? And she started making all these lists of all these things she's good at. She's going on and on and on and on. I said, I just wanted one. But the question just triggered a bunch of other responses. So you have no idea what you're capable of until you're tasked to do it.
Excellent, 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 excellent. And I see over here our first super chat. We got Utopia. Well, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much. It is always nice to see you here. And she says, $20 super chat, which puts you right up there on the sponsor level for the show. But I haven't got my Roadcaster yet, okay? It's on its way. It's coming from Amazon. I'm going to have the little song that I'll play. I'm having somebody do a voiceover as well. I'm going to have all the little bells and whistles going for our very loyal fans over here. Thank you very much, he says, for churning out helpful content. Thank you. Well, thank you. And we have Wes Splash. Wes Splash. Thank you for the $9.99. $9.99. $9.99. $10 super chat. Thank you very much. He says, great topic, brothers. Stay blessed. Yes.
Thank you.
And we have Women's Red Pill Society in the house. And if I know anything about that character, they're probably going to be trolling it a little bit, but it's all good. So we have more potential than we think we do. And there are more problems out there than, we can generally wrap our heads around. The world is not devoid of problems. That is not one of our problems, that we don't have problems, right? So now it often becomes then a question of which particular talent should I cultivate, right? Which skill, right? Which market, okay? And which market should I go? In other words, it becomes these kinds of practical questions. For example, you asked that lady, right? So, let me ask you, how do you determine which lane to go into, which business to start, which problem to solve? Do you have some examples, or what do you have to say with regards to that thought, generally speaking?
Whew, that's always an interesting question for me, because I am a problem solver in a variety of ways, in many different ways. So that when I'm asked that question, I have to kind of scale back and really go back to day one. So the first thing you want to identify is, what is it that you just absolutely love doing, right? That's always a start. I discovered what my special power was, what I call I think I said this in one of our previous casts. I discovered my Iron Man, and I identified my Iron Man. Of course, I had to know first that I was Tony Stark. So I discovered my Iron Man. And my Iron Man basically is that I like being a part of anything that has to do with befores and afters. If there's anything, there's a previous, and then, I just love anything, of course, I didn't get into being a surgeon where I could cut, weight off of people, for example, right? But the reality is I just love being a part of before and after. So the first step is just identify what you love doing. It very well could be, I love counseling people. I love to draw. I love, this sounds like a cliche, solving problems. And then you start talking about attorneys, because attorneys in our law school, we say, hey, you're going out into the world to be a problem solver, to bring balance between broken promises, and things of that nature. But the first step is just to identify, what is it that I love doing? Because the moment you can find out what that is, then the first step is to see, how can I use this maybe to help my cousin, my brother, my sister, my parents, my relatives, my close friend. And then you might help your brother and your sister, and your brother or sister's friend could see that and say, hey, who did that for you? Oh, it's my sister. Oh, I know someone that needs the service. And then it always starts with referral. Everyone starts a business with referral. Of course, we're going to talk more about the resources required to start business, but it always starts by identifying, what is it that you love doing? That's where the magic starts.
Okay, so you've said that. And what is it that you love doing? But people are like, well, what are the examples of the things that I could monetize, to speak in these stupid lingo that people talk about these days, right? So what are possible things, right? Maybe, I don't know, maybe I really love cutting lawns, and, to just give a silly example. And maybe I may want to go and start asking people, because, it's a summer holiday, I'm out of high school or whatever, and I want to, go hire some people to cut other people's lawns and start a whole lawn care business, get a truck, blah blah. So what are some examples? Okay, because again, today the challenge for us is to keep things very granular, very simple,
Right.
very step by step. We have already told them. We said, okay. You said, why do we start a business? You say, well, because there are many problems to be solved. I added to that by saying that you need more resources than you think you do, and
Right.
if you're altruistic or whatever your motivations may be, you actually then need to go out there and solve these problems. And now we're like, okay, well, what problems should I solve? You say, well, what do you love? That's a good place to start. But can you give some examples just to kind of lay out perhaps the perimeter of the landscape here?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to use myself because I don't have to cite um, how I how I started doing creating all the different businesses that I did. I When I was younger, especially as a young adult, I realized that I was just a techie. I loved fixing computers. I loved to tweak my computer and computers. I would buy a surround sound system, and I was always interested in the wiring and how it all came together. And one day when I set up my surround sound and I did that this was back in, I want to say 2001, I did that 5.1 speaker test and I felt like the whole thing went around the room and I was so proud of myself. So with that knowledge, I visited a cousin of mine in Colton and he said, God, I have this surround sound. I can never get it to work. I'm like, I mean, I did mine. I can help you. And I found myself going behind his cabinet and fixing all the wires. And he was so excited. And I'm minding my business. A few weeks later, I get a call from him. I think he was half drunk or something. And he was like, hey, I've got a friend here. I think he needs his surround sound set. I think you can go to his house. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I went over to his house. He puts his hand in his pocket. He gives me money. Oh man, I've been waiting for this. And I'm like, you know what? This is great. And then he referred me to someone. And then I started doing the surround sound installations. And then I was at a client's house and she said, oh, my computer is really slow. I'm like, I fix computers too. I'll give you some money to fix the computer. I went, okay. I fixed the computer. And then, she says, I have some girlfriends. They need their computers fixed too. And then I got the referral. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's just time to make this a business. And that's how I started my consulting business. And of course, from there, graduated into other things because I realized all the other different things that I was capable of that were potential business and business opportunities. And of course, education, experience, they add on to that. And then that's how it became more than what it is today. So to simply put is to do, if you look into your life right now, okay, because this will cost you no money, just look into your life and find out something that you know how to do really well that you've done for yourself and see that others have noticed that you've done that. Maybe you cut a lawn really good. They go, whoa, the way you cut that lawn looks really good. You say, you think so? Yeah. And then maybe just that thought. What if I'm just gonna take a walk down the street? How many lawns are in this neighborhood? Maybe I just go knocking on the door saying, hey, if you want, I'll cut your yard for free. Just so maybe you have a yard guy, could be your new yard guy. I mean, that's the fear factor, right? But of course, we've talked about this on this channel before of getting over that fear and going forward. You knock on the door, and then the next thing you know they'll say, hey, you can cut it. And then, hey, if you like it, how about I do it for you every month? I'll come at a lower price and then work my way up. And that's, I would say that's one of the easiest ways I could think about it. If you need me to simplify that anymore, I can. But I think on a basic level, look into your life and find out what problems that you solve for yourself. And you'll be surprised that a lot of people can't solve those problems. And you could be useful to them, and they are willing to pay you for that service.
Very good. Shout out to Sebastian Ritchie. Shout out to Ethiopified. Welcome, 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 one and all. I like that. You gave one example and you drilled into it. You talked about how you did this surround sound thing, and then there are certain ancillary things, certain things that are related to that, the computer, so on and so forth. Okay, and then later on you generalize by saying look into your life and find things that you're particularly good at. You're harkening back to the how does one find the lane, right? Because we want to keep things simple here, and we drill into that, like what do I do, what do I do, what do I do, and it could just be looking to see what sucks. Perhaps you haven't even solved it in your life, right? But if you just do this particular exercise, you have a daily routine. I'm sure there are many parts of it that suck, right? There's certain things you're like, well, I wish this thing could just be done automatically, or can't this thing be delivered better, so on and so forth, right? So I think that's a good thing. It may be things that you have solved and you realize, oh, other people
I need this solved too.
or things that you have not solved, and you're like, and you may be in a particular business, you have a 9 to 5 or something like that, and you notice that something about your 9 to 5 job sucks. Okay, I don't know, maybe you work at a hair salon and there's something about the supply chain that doesn't quite something that doesn't quite work well. This will start to give you ideas. So what do you love? Problems that you can solve. Okay, specific examples. You give the kind of surround sound. You hooked up your cousin's surround sound, and then they started referring you. And so let me just ask you, okay, let me say this first. There is another thing, because I'm trying to go through the step-by-step mindset of all the blocks that may come up in someone's mind.
Okay.
Someone is like, okay, sure, I go to my cousin, I fix the surround sound. Okay. In other words, maybe I have a 9 to 5 and I'm trying to start another business as well. And okay, now I'm going to add another 20 hours to my work week. Okay. 40 hours, and I'm working 60 hours, right? And I may be doing this thing, or maybe I'm knocking down, you talk about the lawn care, all this kind of thing. But the first thing that will come to the mind of the typical human being is, where is that going to go? Right. Because we are what we are. We want to immediately go from here to Jeff Bezos, right? We're like, but okay, well, I'm knocking down that door of my neighbors talking about lawn cutting. Like, no, that's not Jeff Bezos. Like, when does the Jeff Bezos arrive, sir? So I would just like to say, like, generally speaking, if you add 20 hours, okay, let's just keep things linear. Let's not even get exponential. Let's not talk about the compounding of it. But if you add 20 hours to your work week and you started in 2014. 2014 was not that long ago, okay? Remember that song? Got the club going up on a Tuesday. That was 2014, about 2015, okay? So it's like, that was just right around the corner. That was like 6 years ago, okay? So if you added just 20 hours is not that much, gentlemen, okay? Especially the men over here. I like to tell you guys that, yeah, you need to work, no complaining. You need to be working minimum of 60 hours. If you put those extra 20 hours, and if you just do a linear comparison, okay, you would have worked 9 years compared to the 6 years that somebody that was doing 40 hours has worked. Let me say that again. You would have worked 3 extra years. That's years, okay? Like, you're not talking about how far you are in terms of like days or weeks or months. Now, you're literally 3 years ahead since when you started listening to that on a Tuesday song, right? Just by adding that little thing. So if you're like, hey, I don't really see where this is gonna go, but I can do that, but where's it gonna go? How do I get the staying power? Just understand that simple linear, and we're keeping it linear because in reality, it's actually exponential, because you're going to be compounding, okay? Because you're going to start certain things and then you're going to build from there and build and build and build. It's like compound interest. It's an exponential growth, but exponential growth is hard for the human mind, all of our minds, to kind of capture. So just understand that even in linear terms, you have worked 9 years when the other person was working 6 years. So, but having said that, okay, how many businesses have you started? Let's keep it simple.
Well, I started my IT consulting business where it was really focusing on, fixing computers, installing computers, cleaning out computers, installing printers. That started in 2003. And then that graduated into website development in 2004, because as I continued in my education, I had gained that knowledge and I was fascinated with coding and writing scripts and it turning, like I said earlier, I love befores and after. So I was just fascinated with the fact that I went on the computer and I typed something in Notepad and I ran it and it turned into a website. So I started slowly offering that to my clients, and then I added business consulting to that. So that became my website consulting. So it became, I can help you fix your computer. No, first I can help you install your surround sound, which was the gate opener. And then, you have a computer, I can help you fix your computer and network your printers. And, you need a website, I can help you do your website. Oh, you need a brand, I do brand consulting. So if I were to separate the two, I had the technologies business started, but in starting that one, it gave birth to my business consulting. And then in 2004 is when, along with my dad, I co-wrote the university. And then the other business that I started was my music label. And as a record producer, I thought, well, since I can make websites, I have a studio, why not record artists and I could mix their records, master it, and release it with no middleman. Hey. And
Gotcha.
then the other one that I started was I don't charge, I didn't make a business out of this one, but I started doing retainers with I shouldn't say I do retainers for clients. So I have 3 clients that put me on a retainer, and they have my phone number, my email anytime they need me for X amount of hours a month. So now what's happening is I could just sit back and people call me and just pick my knowledge and pay me, a decent amount of money just to talk to me. So, so they all come from the same bubble, but they address different clients.
Yeah, so I see about 5 businesses there because you have the technology side, you have the business consulting side,
right?
Then there was there's the music thing, there's the university, and then there is this this other thing, last thing you mentioned, being on a retainer. And this is a good example of the exponential aspect. Okay, so I just stated linearly, like if you start saying, oh yeah, I could do something, I could add another 20 hours, because it literally is that simple. It's just a question of work. It's a question of work and time. It's not like some kind of genius or something. It's just, oh, I'm working a 40-hour work week, I'm going to add 20 hours to it. Okay, I think you should go a little wilder to like maybe add 30, add 4, go 80-hour work weeks, that kind of thing. But even if it's just 20 hours, I gave the linear description where you guys you're just doing the same thing. In other words, you're just doing surround sound, right? But now you've worked 9 years in 6 years compared to someone else's 6 years. But guess what? The reality is, because of the exponential growth, the surround sound thing is going to go into computers. It's just going to explode.
Yep.
So that is why you should have the motivation. Okay, that is why you should not stop yourself. But shout out to SOBC in the house, $50 showing out here. He says, salute Ike, salute to the guest speaker.
Thank you.
Salute to the guest speaker. Thank you very much for the donation. So you started about at least 5 businesses, okay? And then let's get into another simple question. How do you start a business in terms of structure? Okay, in terms of just the business structure, the legal entity or certain other things, whatever it may be. How does one start a business?
Great
what does
question.
That question even mean to you? Yeah,
great question. So we can safely say and make the assumption that you found a problem that you can solve, right? Is it safe to say that okay, so let's just take the lawnmower experience. I decided that I want to start. So let's just give it a name. As simple as that.
A name.
What are we going to call it? We're going to call it Ike's Lawn Mowing Services, right? So now you get a name. So what does that even mean? Okay, that just means that you don't want to call your business your name. I mean, let's assume your name is John Smith. What is John Smith? John Smith, for all I care, is just a name, right? So what we want to do is we want to give ourselves a business name. So it can be, and you could be creative. If you're married, you can be your first name and your spouse's. Like we've heard Johnson and Johnson. Maybe it's your first. It could be Tom and Jennifer's lawn mowing services or gardening services. So you want to give it a name that anyone who sees that name could associate to some degree what you do to your business. So that's why it's not uncommon for a name to say Maria's Cakes, or Maria Bakery. So it tells your potential customers that you're running a bakery. So you want to just get a name, because that name is important. That way you can operate as yourself. Because if you have a traditional 9-to-5, you do not want the conflict of interest, to ever cross relate to each other. That's why we call it a DBA, doing business as John and Jennifer's Mowing Services. So there are resources out there. There is a website or
so let me pause you there, because you just you did you did a sleight of, it's not a sleight of hand, but you just kind of like glossed over something, which is, well, first of all, have a name, right?
Right.
I mean, I didn't even think of that. Okay, well, how do you start a business? Well, give it a name. Presumably, you found a problem to solve,
Right.
and then you mentioned the business structure, but you just assumed that people knew it. Like, so the business structure you're talking about is sole proprietorship, right? DBA.
Yes,
right?
yeah. So yeah, you're right. So thank you for bringing me back. So after you've got a name, this is the interesting part. Have a conversation with yourself and say, I exist, or I am running business to do what? Traditionally, that's called a mission statement, but you'll be surprised with how powerful that is. So the mission of John and Jennifer's lawn services is to bring a beauty to mowing lawns, whatever, right? So once you put down the mission, you have to look at that mission as a GPS address. In other words, this is what you hope to accomplish. This is what you want to be known for. I think in one of our previous podcasts, a lot of people don't understand or don't know what Google's mission is. Do yourself a favor and look it up. Google's mission statement is to organize the world's data and make it useful and accessible. So what is the world's data? Maps. What is the world data? Google Sheets. What is the world's data? Emails. And it goes on and on. It's a database. So their mission was to organize the data of the world. So that gave birth to a variety of services: email services, map services, search engines, YouTube Music, YouTube TV. So you have to come up with something. And of course, all of this is all fictional at this point. So so if I were to give this in practice, get a blank Word document, okay? And on the just write the number 1 and say business name. That's a start. Number 2, what do I want to accomplish? That's what we call the what. And then why? Why do I want to do this? I want to do this because, right? And what is it going to require of me? When do I want to get started? And who am I going to offer the service to? That's a very simple exercise to do in Microsoft Word or any word processing software out there. But the moment you do that, it starts as a point map. It starts as a, this is what I need to do. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will give birth to the next steps to follow.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Shout out to Eddie Adheem in the house, Black Knight Fool. Bijou Noir, you are here again. You know what? Bijou Noir, check out her channel. I believe your channel is called by the name Bijou Noir. So check out her channel, and I'm going to go ahead and make you a moderator. You're getting wrenched up over here. Also, shout out to Goodman, one of the greatest moderators out there to ever grace the YouTube streets. Goodman in the house, a fellow Dusty inside joke. Now, you've talked about the business structure, right? You say, well, how does one start a business? How does one start a business? You mentioned, first of all, give yourself a name, and then you mentioned also have a statement, and that statement is something around which the services, the software, the products, whatever it is that you're going to be churning out is going to revolve around that particular one statement, okay? The simpler, the better. Keep it to simple one-sentence things. The more you can condense things into one sentence, the better your life is going to be. Actually, it's more powerful that way, right? All kinds of things can come out of one sentence, but oftentimes when you have a whole bunch of sentences, nothing comes out.
No, exactly.
So now, how in practical terms does one begin to, if you're a DBA, okay, do you have to register it anywhere? Do you have to go to LegalZoom and do anything of that kind? Register with the county, this, that, and the other. What are some of those kind of structural things regarding the legal entity that you have to do at this point?
Okay, so let's put it in layman's terms. So you've come up with the name. We're gonna say, Tom and Jennifer's garden services. So what you want to do next is you want to do a simple web search, maybe using your, Google, which is everyone knows about Google, and just Google it. Just entertain your knowledge and see, hey, does someone else have that name out there? And of course, if you don't see that name come up, it's safe to say that you can go to your local, state, or city business department. So just look up on the internet I want to register my business name, and then enter, of course, city name or city county. And a lot of times they're no more than 20 minutes, 45 minutes away from where you live. And when you visit that office, you can go there, as green as a green leaf. I know nothing, but I want to register this business name. And I promise you, there you'll find people, documents, and everything there to help you. So let's take the simple approach. You take that name, you go into the business office in your local county or city, and there's a form that you fill out. Sometimes the form to fill out is like $50. And now I'm in California. California requires, after you register that name, that what we call the DBA, doing business as Tom and Jennifer's Gardening Services or Landscape Services, whatever, you have to make a newspaper publication. Ironically, and surprisingly, there's always a newspaper office right around the corner, close to those offices. So you can just cross the street and you go in there and say, hey, I just registered this business name. I want to put this in the newspaper. There's a requirement in California, it has to stay in the newspaper. So they'll put a little one paragraph that, hey, so-and-so person is now doing business as Tom and Jennifer's Lawn Services in your city and state or whatever. And that right there would be the first step in you saying, I am now of course, we're not there as far as the different types of businesses, but we're assuming on the basis of this channel, this is just a sole proprietor, meaning that you're just doing business by yourself. You're taking all the liabilities and things of that nature. And once you turn that newspaper, get the newspaper part and go through the fees, they're on average are about $150. As Ike mentioned, you can go to LegalZoom, pay them all the money and the money for their services. They'll do it all for you and email you everything or mail you everything, and life goes on. And then now what? Okay, what am I supposed to do next, right? That would be the big question. Well, the next question is open up a bank account with the documents you get from the city. So you just walk into your favorite bank and say, hey, hi there. I would like to open up a bank account for my business. And they're going to ask you, do you have the paper from the city? Yes. Do you have your all the information, your social security number and your address and all that stuff? Yes. And about 20, 30 minutes, you're walking out of there with a bank account, and people can now write a check to you in the name of Tom and Jennifer's Garden and Landscape Services. I keep forgetting whichever one we chose.
Good. Yeah, I like how you're sticking there. Like, yeah, you're in a ad hoc and just without prompting, following certain of the things that we talk about in this channel in terms of communications and persuasion and so on and so forth. Having that hook, you've been going around that whole Tom and whatever long moments. Like, yes, referring back to something, having something that we're looking at. Okay,
right.
So you go and you get it registered. Okay,
right.
It gets printed in a, and obviously, I've gone through this process. Yes, they kind of show you, and yeah, this is some magazine,
yeah,
or
generic.
some newspaper, right? It gets printed there. You go and immediately open a bank account. It's easy to, like, for example, you could go to Capital One, Spark Business, for example, is their business branch, or you have a personal checking account with some bank, right? Some credit union, so on and so forth. Ask them, well, can I open a bank account? And then, yes, they'll be like, cool, you submit the relevant paperwork, and now you have this separate bank account, right? So again, remember, we're trying to keep things very granular and simple for this particular stream here, right? Now, what was you already mentioned, okay, the first business that you ever started, and you kind of mentioned how you got the customers, okay? Now, were there any particular struggles? Because you did it in that kind of, you mentioned it that intuitive way, that kind of high conceptual way, like, well, I did this, and then the referrals came, and then things bubbled up, and obviously you were making strategic decisions. You were kind of taking advantage, right, of these things. Now, what were the struggles in regard to getting customers, okay? Because that's a key part, right? So you figured out the problem you want to solve. First of all, you figured out why you should be starting a business, because there are problems to be solved in this world, okay? And okay, what am I good at? What kinds of problems can I solve? You figured it out. You've registered it. There is a structure now.
Right.
Woo, you have a bank account, okay?
Right.
You're ready to go. Then there's the question of customers, because that's the most important part of business. First of all, shout out though. Shout out. I think I'm missing before I completely skip this super chat here. Shout out to Eddie Edheem. He says, cool suit, Ike. And then he very, very slickly mentioned, stop going live when I'm live. That's a slick way in my head of telling me and telling us that you have a channel, Eddie. Or maybe that's just my crazy brain going, but in regards to you being slick. But Either way, it's a compliment. Yes, nice and slick. So apparently Eddie has a channel and he goes live. Eddie has a channel and he goes live. That's Eddie Adheem in the house. Thank you very much for the $5 super chat. And yes, thank you for the compliment on the soup. And we have Doug as well, another one of the great moderators out there. Thank you very much for the $5 super chat as well. Okay, Small Business Development Center in every city. Yes, there's the SBA, right? Small Business Administration, I believe they're called. Yes, so there are these resources out there with government employees that are paid just waiting for you to come take advantage of it, right? You've heard of it. The SBA became more popular because of the SBA loans recently, if people were paying attention generally, right? So there are all kinds of other programs available to you, okay? If you simply just go there and ask, especially if you're, let's say, there are allotments or, let's say, things available to you if you're, let's say, if you're minority-owned businesses, for example. Okay, disadvantaged business, enterprise type, there are all these different kinds of classifications. And if you need to get certain government contracts, okay, these big organizations, right, need to have a certain percentage of their subcontractors be minority owned or this or this or this. So you go in there and you find out what are the different kinds of ways in which I can register my business to take advantage of getting these government contracts. Anyways, going a little bit ahead of the curve now, but we're back into the customer aspect, okay? The customers are the most important part of business. The structure is important, but you have a customer even before you had a name, okay? If you have a customer even before you had a name or a mission statement or you're already way ahead of the curve, right? But generally speaking, what are some of the hurdles that you've learned, overcome, and what did you learn from them vis-a-vis the acquisition of customers in these early stages? What can you teach us about that?
Well, the very first, in my own experience, the first challenges are understanding that, and this is important. This is what I have 19 years of experience in business, and what I would tell any new person: every customer situation and every client situation is different. I remember I went to customers who had a 7.1 surround sound. Now, I was very familiar with 5.1. I wasn't familiar with 7.1. And I was in this customer's house for, I think, 3 hours. And I got there, the sun was out. I'm there still working. The sun is down. His wife is getting uneasy, and I'm not sure what the heck I needed to do to fix it. And people, this was at a time where YouTube, I don't think YouTube existed at the time. So, now you could just pull up YouTube and maybe say, hey, can I use your bathroom? And you walk into YouTube and you watch a quick video. No, there was no video. So everything had to be figured out, just by trial and error. So what some of my challenges were managing my time with the customers and not being prepared for the unknown. The other challenges were some customers would ask for more than I was willing to give. Some customers, you get there, they want you to look at the surround sound, their VCR, their DVD player, and they want you to look at other things, and finding that balance between being, I'm here to help you to solve this problem, not your other problems or some of the challenges. The other things that you pick up along the way, you have to be very confident and firm in some of your policies. So what I had with over time experience taught me, I'll tell some of my clients, and I'll share another story. He called me at 7 in the morning and said, hey, my computer's not working. I've got a big meeting at 9 o'clock. I need you in my office right away. I'm like, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. He said, I said, okay, listen, this is what I charge if I have to do an emergency visit. This is what I normally charge. And this is what I would charge if you brought the stuff over here. Are you sure you want me over there? He said, yes, yes, yes. So immediately I jumped in my car, I got on the freeway, I flew over there. I made it there about 7:41. And, that's an hour before you opened up shop. And I go in there and the mouse wasn't connected. I guess when the janitor had moved something at night, it got disconnected. So I'm like, okay, tell you what, it was just the cable that wasn't plugged in. But of course, he wasn't paying me to tell him that. He was paying me because I knew that's what was wrong, right? So as a gentleman, I, did some computer updates. I networked his printer and he still paid me the premium fee. But the biggest challenge is knowing where to get that balance between you going in there specifically to solve the problem that you came in there to solve, and not having to finding yourself solving other problems. That's why it's very traditional. You go to mechanics, you say, listen, I just want my oil change done. Now, of course, the mechanic's job is to find other problems so you can potentially increase the size of the invoice. So, in doing that, they'll say, hey, this is what they did to counter that. You do an oil change, we give a free inspection. We'll tell you what else is wrong, and you can choose to fix these problems for the following extra cost. If you only want to do your oil change, this is the fee. So the challenge is making sure that you identify what you're coming there to do, disclosing that repeatedly, and making them sign. And so this is where, of course, the other parts of running a business comes in. I am here to install RAM on your computer. I'm not here to fix your CD-ROM drive. I'm not here to fix virus. I know that your children like watching free movies. I'm not here to fix any of that. I am just here to fix the RAM on your computer. At the beginning, I was so naive and so good, and then I find people taking advantage of me. Then at one point, I was fixing the microwave. I'm like, lady, I just came here to fix your computer, and now I need to look at it because people start finding you very handy, and if you're good at what you do, they start to give you that badge of honor on other things that aren't related to why you came in there. Now, of course, can that give birth to other business opportunities? It did, and it has, and it can. But the biggest thing is make sure the challenges you'll find is people start asking more of you than what you initially went in there to offer them. Like, let's say go back to the lawnmower. You're mowing the lawn, and they're going to say, "Hey, I noticed that my lime tree, it's overgrown." Now, in case any of you didn't know, if you over trim a lime tree in the middle of its blooming season, it can kill the tree. So, and how do I know that? I have a lime tree in my backyard, and my wife told the gardener, "Hey, buddy, can you just trim this off a little bit? It looks a little dusty." And he said, "Hey, if I cut it, it may kill the tree." And she said, "No, just cut it." And guess what happened after he cut it? The tree died. She was mad, but he said, "I told you before I started, it's going to kill the tree." Now he's coming from experience. So if you're mowing for the first time, you're going, "Oh, sure, Miss Request Customer, I'll trim this up for you." And then you got some trouble on your hands because they're going to say, "Ever since you cut that tree, now my tree is dead." So those are things that you pick up. Those are some of the challenges, and they come in all different forms and sizes, shape. Of course, if you're selling software, it has a set of problems. If you're selling hardware, it has its problems. If you're offering services like gardening, it has its problems. And sometimes you get faced with the weather being the problem. You might do something and the weather is your problem. So it goes on and on. Like, what would DirecTV tell you is one of their problems? When it gets windy, or when it's raining really bad, some of the customers have problems with their satellite receivers. So, I mean, there's satellite dishes on the rooftop. So those are some of the challenges, but they all present themselves in the respective manner based on the type of business that you're doing.
Gotcha. Okay, so you did that thing again, which I knew you probably You went all through the thing, and you kind of traversed the landscape. I was asking you to stay on the map. You flew up over, and you kind of and you used radar all over the place to anticipate the kinds of but definitely helpful. So we'll try to balance the level of that kind of high level point of view versus the step by step, which I'm trying to get out here so that people can get that kind of information out from it as well. So,
right.
But by the way, before I move on a little further, let me go ahead and acknowledge some of the super chats. Okay, some of the super chats over here. We have, I believe, a $5 super chat from Native Rain, I believe. Well,
Yep.
Shout out to you. Says, "Peace, brother Ike." Thank you very much. Does this comment make any sense to you? There's a comment here that says a customer avatar. Was that part of which customer avatar ? But anyways, perhaps not. And then Snuggles over here. Snuggles, the $5 super chat monarch in the house, saying, "Sounds like somebody wants to start a moderator war." Okay. Sounds like a battle, I believe you're about to say. A battle of moderators are about to commence. Shout out to you, one and all. So, you mentioned the kinds of problems that may arise when you are dealing with customers, how to pretty much define the services being offered, of
Right.
how to create a proposal and a quote, right?
Right.
And I'm gonna take a step back, okay, to ask
Okay.
again about customer acquisition, right?
Okay.
Because you mentioned it in terms of referrals,
Right.
but are there any other, and because when you first started speaking, my headphones went up, but are there any other things that you could say about the customer acquisition process?
Okay, the for anyone starting a business for the first time, your first customers are going to be referrals. Let me just tell you right now, you're not going to start with strangers. You're going to start with referrals. And here's why. Referrals are usually friends and supporters of yours that will tell you some things that, in honesty, that will give you an opportunity to correct them prior to going out into the real world. What I mean by real world is dealing with customers that don't know you, but only can vouch for you based on their experience with you and after you've offered services to them, right? So what are ways to get customers? Well, the key word is simple: marketing. Marketing is how you get customers. So you must make disciples out of your existing referrals. So they must be disciples. They must be so proud of you. They must be willing to leave reviews, or what we used to call testimonials. Reviews is a big market. I bought a vacuum from Amazon for my car for $30, and they wrote me, "Hey, give us a 5-star. We'll give you a $20 gift card." So I only paid $10. So they're literally paying $20 for me to give them 5 stars. I was going to give them 5 stars anyway because I like the product. But hey, take $20 for doing it. Why not? So we're in a customer-driven society. We have so many platforms like Yelp and Google reviews, Facebook reviews. We have customercomplaints.org. There's so many ways that a business could go down and under if they have a bad reputation. So your customer acquisition is important, and that starts with your close friends and relatives and people that you can trust, as far as your inner circle and the ones that come through referral. Now, when it comes to marketing, the biggest question is, how do you get customers? Well, let's just put it this way. A customer is someone that has a problem that you can solve. Okay? That's just the easy way to put it. A customer is someone that has a problem that you can solve. And now, where do you find those customers? Well, they're everywhere. But let's streamline it down a little bit. If you were selling men's suit, right? You would want, obviously, your target market would be men, but not all men. There are men in the population that don't care for suits or blazers. They prefer t-shirts and sports jerseys. So this
find
is
a way
where
of narrowing it down. Okay,
exactly.
okay.
So this is where you now have to say, okay, you could do. This is where you have to start. Again, this is what Ike mentioned earlier. Resources. You're going to do some research. There is a website. It's called Statistia, and that's where I go and do some research. You can. What if you said, I want to look for neighborhoods in 50 miles around me that has the most working class, working. And of course, working could be Home Depot, could be Taco Bell, and it could be Chase Bank, right? And someone working at Home Depot is not going to wear a suit. So now you have to say by income, because we know someone working at Home Depot is probably not going to be making $100,000 a year. I mean, maybe they do, but your far is less likely. And I'm going to identify, and I found that in this zip code, 73% of the neighborhood here make over $100,000 a year. That means that they're doing jobs that probably require being dressed up, right? So what if I could find my way in that market space? What if I know someone in there? What if I'm able to visit that neighborhood? What if I went in there and I posted a flyer? What if I knew someone that knew someone in that neighborhood, and maybe they can spread the word? What if there was a club? This is where your research, this is where asking questions, this is where decision making comes in. This is where being savvy comes in. Now, of course, this comes along with time, with mentorship, or hopefully through this channel, right? Where you can say, so this is what I need to do. And you'll be surprised how willing people are to help you out when you have a clear vision and are solving a problem that they have. You'll be surprised. It says all you need is one person in the neighborhood that says, oh, I've got this great person that he sells the best suits. Or I have found Tom and Janice Garden Service. My goodness, when they cut my lawn, my sprinklers didn't break. They did everything to perfection. And the next thing you know it, they refer you to the next person, and all of a sudden that whole neighborhood is yours. Now, of course, expansion comes with investment, right? So then you could start paying, Google search results, Facebook advertising, and what those platforms automatically do, they do the dirty work for you. They look for people that meet your business needs, or rather, they look for people that have the problems that you can solve. I'll give you one more example. One of my clients is a surgeon in Texas, and we run ads, and he's a surgeon that does weight loss surgeries, hernias, general surgery, acute surgery, robotic surgery. So we go out, this might sound a little direct. We are looking for overweight people, typically between the ages of 55 and 60. Why? Mm-hmm. Because research has shown that women, specifically in that age group, who are overweight are a lot more conscious about their bodies and are looking for ways to solve that problem. That's where my surgeon comes in. He says, hey, now we're not going out there putting an ad and say, hey, are you overweight? We can make you not overweight. No, we just say, hey, we are a local surgeon in the Texas area, and we offer some great rates, and we can help you. We can help you go from one weight to the other weight. And how is that possible? Well, here are some of the clients that we've helped. There's customer A. He was 600 pounds. Now he's 290 pounds. Of course, I'm just making that up. But there's customer B, and so on and so forth. And then we had a separate campaign where, well, men like to lose weight too, maybe perhaps through surgery. But we identified that it's typically single men or married men in the following age range. And all you need to do is specify that in the Facebook ads, and they automatically look for profiles where people have said in their profiles, God, I got to lose weight, or I need to get rid of some of these pounds. And they start placing those ads in there. So I don't know if I stayed within the scope of your question, but that's essentially how it starts.
You did. You're within the scope, definitely, but also definitely on the map, on the plane. I like it, but you're expanding on the plane. You didn't hop up, do that thing us creative people do, where you just start flying all over, and it's relevant, and we understand, but you gotta, hey, calm down. But definitely, if I were to kind of reiterate some of the main points, the first one is marketing. Okay, right. Marketing. Now, go back and watch. We've talked about sales before. We talked about closing. Right. We've talked about the 5 stages of buying, and you and I. Plus, I have a playlist on sales persuasion, influence, and so on and so forth. How you present yourself, how you talk, how to do all those hypnotic techniques, and so on and so forth. But go there. This is not the stream for that kind of thing. This is just more of a dry. How do I start a business kind of thing? But definitely it is relevant. Okay. So you mentioned marketing, but you also mentioned referrals, which is a form of marketing. And it is the case that referrals are the cheapest, right?
Correct.
A referral costs you nothing, but also it comes with the most amount of trust. In other words,
that's right.
Because you have this avatar, right? Whom is your client A, right? They're telling their cousin, who now becomes client B, like it's you could not even pay for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like no, you're literally paying this to tell his cousin. Like, so the point, and I'm trying to make here, is that a lot of businesses grow from referrals, but a lot of people don't think about having a strategic approach towards referrals. In other words, when I get any client, for example, or when I'm pursuing a client even, it's part of kind of like the conversation to kind of put body around the conversation I'm having with the client, is to say that, hey, by the way, and this is even before I get the business, I say, hey, by the way, us over here in Prometheus Engineering, one of the main ways in which we grow is through referrals. So if we win your business, and you're completely satisfied, which we strive for, and this particular product, service, software solves your problem, we're able to slash the 50% in installation costs, or whatever it is, the big claim we've made, the promise that we've made, then we would like for you to refer us to another colleague of yours, of equal caliber, because that's how we grow. And I would just like to put my cards on the table in that regard. So that is a strategic kind of thing, whereby you're just constantly going out there and saying, this is how we grow.
That's right.
If we win, boom, then I ask again for the referral. However, even if we don't win, there is still a chance that 15% of these people whom we did not win with, right, might be like, you know what, this really cool guy showed up in my office, or he called me, or he whatever, we had a Zoom call, and I think it'll be good for your problem, Carl. I already have a guy, or for whatever the reason is that this particular customer A is not going with me, but he's going to tell his cousin, customer B, to go with me. So they're cheap, okay, in terms of referrals are, that is. And it is one of they tend to stay longer.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
they're more loyal, so on and so forth. But people don't take a strategic approach towards securing a referral. And then something else that you mentioned earlier, again, because you mentioned some other things that were kind of surrounding other problems that you may have with customers, and what that's about defining very clearly what the proposal is. Like
Right.
giving them a quote, telling them this is what you're gonna do. So I want to just go ahead and let me share something here. Ba ba ba. Screen share. I'm gonna share something again, just keeping things, shall I say, simple. Okay, like this for example, because Aitois has already gone ahead and explained, okay, the problems that may arise where you're there to fix a computer, all of a sudden you're fixing a microwave, or crap, you're mowing the lawn now, or in other words, it's called scope creep. Generally speaking, in at least in the engineering world, because you have a scope of work, and then it tends to creep. Like, oh, you were supposed to fix this particular thing, or we're supposed to build this particular garage. Next thing you're designing the shed next to it, and you're designing the wall, and
Yep.
he's digging a well, and next thing you're designing the whole town. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. This was not part of it. Now you got to go back and recharge and so on and so forth. So basically, like the sooner you're able to come up with something like this, okay. And these days, you have DocuSign and things like that, right? So
Right.
don't be like, oh, well, you mean I gotta be carrying papers and having people sign? Like, no. And actually, it helps. It's also a sales tool, by the way, when you actually give someone, and you got to know the right time to present it. But when you
course.
give someone like, boom, here is something in front of you. It states things clearly. It's actually a way of pushing them, giving them that emotional nudge to just be like, yeah, you know what? This is the person I'm going with, right?
Right.
Because this person that's given it beyond the face, the name, the conversation, and all these other things, they also have in front of me a document saying, sign here, right? It's just a way of pushing them that way. So basically, Prometheus Engineering, blah, 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 all the custom, and then you say exactly what it is, okay? This is seismic bracing layout, details for hydraulic pipes, and blah, 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 right? The particular kind of things that it is based on, what exactly I'm delivering, okay? The deliverables, right? It's gonna be structural calculations, drawings, pertinent cut sheets, and they'll know what these means, the terms mean, right? And detailed drawings, okay? And if it involves a stamp, whatever the hell it is, you enumerate, boom, 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 what does this cost? And then that's that, right? So that was something that you had mentioned as well. I just felt like I should give an example, okay?
Definitely.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, okay, customers are the most important part of a business, right? Now, besides customers, which is the main source of your revenue, okay, there are other ways. Well, let me mention another thing about customers. They give you product market fit. In other words, especially when you're new, if you have a product, if it's something where you have a product, because services, you need a customer, like, it's like, so you can't get off of that. But there's certain things where you're trying to develop a product, so you lock yourself in your garage and you think you can do it without a customer. And perhaps I'll ask you to comment on this. A lot of people think that they can go and create the perfect thing and then bring it out to the customer. Perhaps you already anticipate what the problem is with this kind of a mindset.
Big time.
Oh yeah, go ahead. What do you have to say about that? Why can you not go lock yourself in a garage and brainstorm and brain cell, your brute force your way to the perfect product, and then bring like, hey, I found it. Go ahead. Why not?
Okay, so this is one that, gosh, I'm not sure that this whole stream we have enough time to go into this one. I'm going to use an example, a very practical example. There was a friend of mine. We were in the studio and we were recording a song. We started the song in March. I think it was March of 2018. Here we are in March of 2019, still working on the same song. And then he would come in and add something else. And during that whole time, I had released an album. And he says, wait, whoa. Why did you just, how did you just release yours? I told him, I said, that's because when people listen to a song, they listen to what you give them. They have no idea that you meant to say, ooh, on this side versus, they don't know. The customer, the fan just listens to the song that you released to them. So that goes without saying, to answer your question in other words, bring it out there. Just let it out there, because you will have the time to refine it as you go along.
You need that feedback.
You
the
need that feedback.
You need iteration. You need evolution. Yeah.
It's like in my first album, I remember my first album I started working on the album and I released it in 2018 and I started working on it in 2013. And it took me 5 years. Well, guess how long my second album took me? About 6 months. Because I realized that all the feedback that I got on there, I realized, and to give one story about the album, there was one particular song in there. I remixed that song and mastered that song at least 7 times. On my computer, I have different versions of it. I would remix it, remaster it. I did it over and over and over. And I swore on everything I love that when this song comes out on the album, this is going to be everyone's favorite song. Well, I have news for you. It's actually the least. No, that song didn't get any play. Now, Boom. There was one song on there that I didn't spend any more than 4 or 5 hours on. That's the number 1 song on the album. So sometimes just go out there and people will tell you. So what did I do? I went back and I listened to that song and I realized there was a certain tempo that suited what I was doing. There was a certain chord progression that was attractive on there. So I went back and took what I learned from my first album and applied that to my second album. And I made till this in 1 week of releasing my second album, I made maybe 1,000% of everything that I've made in my first album to date in 1 week. So you learn. There's no such thing as perfect because you're going to bring it out. Someone's going to criticize anyways. Someone's going to say something, but criticism is good. A lot of people run away from criticism, but it's important because it tells you what you're doing right and it tells you what you're doing wrong. More importantly, it tells you what you're doing wrong so that you can start doing it right. So if it's as soon as it can be, as soon as it can go. Don't wait for it to be, because no one's out there waiting for you saying, oh my God, you put an extra year. I think I'm going to buy it more now. No, people are going to buy it when it hits the stores. It's that simple.
100%. Look, Facebook didn't just incubate in a dormitory somewhere and then come out. No, he actually had customers early, right, at Harvard, right? And then he spread to other universities and then more universities. And then it went out, right? So if because you may be thinking there, I'm going to open this restaurant, okay? And it's going to be all about the tiramisu, my grandma's tiramisu recipe. It's going to be all about it. It's usually a lot simpler than you think, right?
Right.
They're like, you know what? The favorite thing in the menu is your fries, right? It's like, you're like doing all these things and they're like, and it's like, no, really, we just like the fries. You know what? Build everything, all that other stuff, just everything else around the fries. Your fries are what's going on here. And you did not think about the fries. Same thing with, you have this app or whatever it may be. You have this gadget that has 10,000 features and benefits or whatever. And people are just like, you know what? I just like benefit 1 through 3. Right. The rest of the 9,000 or whatever, I don't really care for them. So point being, don't go get stuck in the garage. Okay. And let me bring us back on track here by way of summary. First of all, shout out everybody. Like, share, subscribe. My name is Ike Ogami. This is my channel. And over here, we talk about being better and doing better. And today, we're talking about starting. Starting is not easy. And we're exploring starting vis-a-vis the starting of a startup, a business. Why should you start a business? Well, there are problems to solve. That's why you start a business. Well, what problems should I solve? What am I good at? So on and so forth. Look at your life. What are the things that you do particularly well? Or what are the problems that you see around your personal life or your 9-to-5 kind of life that you could solve? And we already talked about the reasons why you should have staying power. Because if you just from a linear way, if you work 6 years with an extra 20 hours, you will have worked 9 years. You will have worked 3 more years extra. But when you compound it, it's more like having worked like 20 years extra because of the compounding things. You give the example of, well, you go out there to fix surround sounds, and then they now tell you, oh, can you fix my computer? And this other person is saying, oh, I need a website. So it compounds on itself. It's not just a linear thing, but even if you think about it linearly, you've actually worked 3 more years than somebody else. But when you compound it, it's more like you've worked 20 years more than someone else. And it just becomes, you become light years ahead just by putting in the work. And then we talk about, well, how do you basically start a business? Okay, you mentioned give it a name. and have that one sentence, my particular preference, one sentence mission statement, which is like, this is the thing that I would like to do. I would like to do X. And then all your product, service, software, and everything that you continue to develop from there come from that basic core. And then we talk about acquiring customers, which are the main point of a business. That's the main point of a business. And we talk about product market fit, what you learn from the customers, and so on and so forth. Now, let me go ahead and read some of the super chats over here. I believe before I miss them, good men in the house. Thank you very much for the $10 super chat. It says the tithe to the church to the Church of Ike. Thank you very much. Did I miss any other one? Shout out to Ramil Amir in the house again. Always good seeing you in the house. L Boyd in the house, and all the other members of the chat. So let's move on, okay? Besides customers, okay, what are the other sources of revenue, of funding, right? Obviously, venture capitalists, loans, and so on and so forth, but you can enumerate the ones that you find particularly pertinent. And what has been your experience with regards to getting funding for any one of your businesses? And by the way, by way of introduction, this is Aitoa, for those of you coming in. He is the president of American Heritage University. He has started at least 5 businesses in different areas, technology, consulting, music, on and on. But what has been your experience vis-a-vis, getting funding in other ways besides the funding that you get revenue-wise from your customers?
Okay. I'll be, we're always honest on this channel. When you start a business, literally no bank is going to give you any money. The first thing, there's this saying, when you need the credit, they don't give it to you. And when you don't need it, they're throwing it at you. I remember going to the bank thinking, well, I need to get some money so I can, hire people and pay for resources like, forms and have a credit line so I can, do different things. And immediately it was a hard no. But, fast forward to now I own 2 properties and have all this experience. They're like, we're willing to give you $100,000 business credit line. I'm like, I don't need it, So, but what is the realistic way of really getting, as the SBA they have loans, but for that loan structure, for them to give you a loan, you have to put together what we call a business plan. And to keep it simple, a business plan is just you giving specific details as best as you can in short sentences, how you plan to achieve your vision, your goals, and your business objectives. So let's go back to our lawnmower company, right? We've got Tom and Jennifer Landscape Services. Well, we're going to need a lawnmower. Okay. And when you start to mow on a higher scale, maybe perhaps you need 2 lawnmowers so that Tom's operating one, Jennifer's operating the other one, or Tom can hire Mike down the street and say, hey, Mike, if you're rolling this other lawnmower on the left side of town or on the left side of the neighborhood, I'll pay you X amount of dollars where you can use that. And then we have to talk about the maintenance of those lawnmowers. Maybe they start to wear and tear. You might need to have repairs on them. And wear and tear, by the way, wear and tear is natural on that type of service. Of course, in consulting, you are faced with the challenge of professional development, getting yourself better and in tune. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to stick with our lawnmower business, right? So you need to buy lawnmowers. You need to buy blowers. Maybe perhaps you need to get a truck to carry your stuff around, right? And maybe you need to get some safety gear, like some goggles, some hedge clippers, and some weed whackers and things like that. So that's going to be a startup cost. Now, how did I do mine? I sat down and I figured out how to make forms. I sat down and figured out, how to make my own logos, and I figured out how to do a lot of stuff. So I became my own resource. But when I needed money, what I started doing was when I would get money from doing one job, I would put that money back into the business. So let's take Tom and Jennifer's lawn mowing service. They've just mowed 10 lawns and they made $1,000. Okay, let's just say they made $1,000. Then they're going to take that $1,000 using their personal credit card if they have one. Either use their credit card to get the new lawnmowers and then take that $1,000 to pay it off, or go to the store with cash, or Sears or your local lawnmower store. I like to get 2 lawnmowers. Okay, we're not going to get into the business aspect of the taxes and business expenses. We're going to put that aside because that's another conversation. So Then they bought the lawnmowers, and then they do 10 more jobs for $1,000. That has basically paid off the lawnmower, and that $1,000 has now become interest, or I mean, not interest, profit. And now Tom and Jennifer can say, "Hey, oh my God, we made our first 1,000," because the other 1,000 were turned into assets. And it's very important. Assets are what you own. What belongs to you is an asset. So the lawnmowers are now giving you what I like to call residual income, meaning that every time you use that lawnmower, it's just giving you money that you've already invested in. You can mow 20 more lawns. It's the same lawnmower. Of course, we have to keep in account that the lawnmower might have problems. It might need oil, depreciation. Exactly. You may need to put gas in there. You may need to store it somewhere. And there's always sad parts of, it could be stolen, things like that. But we're not going to get into that. So then you can then get, with that $1,000, you can say, now maybe I'm going to get a super lawnmower that mows lawns, and instead of 1 hour, it does it in 10 minutes. Then you walk into the store with that $1,000, bam, you get the $1,000 lawnmower. Now you're doing more lawns in less time. So instead of 10 jobs giving you $1,000, now 10 jobs will give you, 20 jobs will give you $3,000 because you're using a better lawnmower. And that's pretty much how, as I talked about the exponential factor, that's how that works. But scaling back a little bit, how can you fund your project? You can use your own money. Of course, part of what, maybe a future topic is, using your money wisely. That's very important. So maybe you make $7,000 a month and you want to start a business. Maybe find a way to take, 20 to 30% of that money, start saving that. Maybe in 6 months, you have enough to fund your own business. And as you start to make that money and make that profit, when you walk into the bank's going to say, wow, this is impressive. We're going to give you a secure credit card, a secure line of credit for $10,000. Say we start with that. And that's how the process starts. So it all begins with a lot of self-discipline and you being comfortable funding your own future with your own, what I like to call sweat equity.
Exactly.
Right.
So what you mentioned about, this is true. This is, I think it's either Peter chapter 25 or Peter, some other chapter, verse 25. For those who have, more shall be given. For those who do not have, even the little that they do have will be taken away.
Away.
Until you demonstrate mastery, you don't get anything. You want to get her phone number or IG or wherever the hell they're giving away these days. If you're desperate about it, you're not going to get it. Until you demonstrate mastery, until you don't need something, people don't give it to you.
That's right.
Until you can show, hey, I am running my business. I'm going to be running it with or without you. But hey, can you help me anyways? I have a good credit and I have collateral, right? Then they'll give it to you. This is true of all things. When you're trying to sell something to somebody, you cannot be desperate either. You need to be direct. Say, this is what I want. But with your body language and with your demeanor, generally speaking, and your competence, you demonstrate that, hey, this guy's not desperate for me, right? He's a businessman. So yes, this is a principle that reoccurs over and over and over again.
That's right.
It's so old and so ubiquitous. It's in the Bible and everywhere else. Look, people only give to those, the world gives to those whom can demonstrate mastery. So as you said, it takes a lot of self-discipline. You are going to go ahead, use your self-discipline, reinvest into the company, do, and then boom, the floodgates get open to you. Okay. No one is going to give you anything until you can show,
demonstrate.
You can demonstrate that, right? So an important part of startups is the team. So Tom and what are their names?
Jennifer.
Tom and Jennifer Lawn Mowing Services, okay? They have gone through this whole process step by step. They're like, why should I start a business? What can we do, okay? What are the problems that we solve? We have given the name. We have registered it with in the Small Business Administration. That got printed in a newspaper. It's now recognized by the county and the state. We have gotten some few customers. We got some few lawnmowers. Now there is the question of the team. There are two aspects of the team. First of all, Tom and Jennifer, that's the starting team is super key, right? Very important. It's almost like you need to have the same kind of values, but you need to be complementary in terms of skills or personality or that kind of stuff, right? But the values part is, it's almost like a marriage, in other words, right?
Right.
Like you guys come into a marriage, you guys are actually trying to come. The shared value there will be that you want some kind of thing out of this relationship or whatever, or family or kids or whatever. So the values part needs to be key. Then you can differ in terms of have complementarity. That is in terms of personality. But beyond the initial starting team, another key aspect is hiring people. Okay,
Right.
so let's go back to the simple question type of asking again. Okay.
Okay.
How does one go about hiring people? And you can take from any one of your businesses or any kind of experience that you've had in this regard. How do you go about hiring people?
Okay, well, I have. I'm going to give you an example with my consulting team. I have a a team of developers in India. So what I did is I got to a point where I realized that I want to be available to my clients on the front of I'm going to talk to my clients and understand their vision, their needs, and business needs, and say to them, okay, this is what you need. This is how you want your website to look. We're going to do some branding for you, your logos. We're going to get your stationery and all this stuff going on. And it got to a point where the client needed me to do everything, and I realized that I can't do it all. So what I did is I went to a website. Oh my gosh, I can't remember what it's called. It's something like Fiverr. And I said, okay, I'm looking for a developer, a website developer that can do the following, right? And I was bombarded with requests from folks all over the world. And one particular gentleman just stood out to me. I just connected with him. So I said, hey, okay, cool. So we started doing the work. And I said, now I know I found you on this. I know it's against the rules, right? But I'm just going to ask you, since our project is done, are you willing to work with me moving forward? I mean, I'll pay you. And he said, sure. And just like that, he came on my team. The good news is sometimes I would get a project. Now, because he's in India, I would get a project. Let's say the project is $5,000. His entire cost was like maybe $300. Okay. And he at $300, he's extremely happy. And he's I'll pay him the $300 and the rest of the money is mine. So what I noticed was happening. I could then get more customers because I could just say, hey, I need you to do this part of it. So all I needed to do was do this part. Think of it the best way I could put it. Think of a house. So let's go back to our Tom and Jennifer. So my job is to go knock and present there. Hey, we have this awesome gardening service. We can cut your lawn like this. I have the following pictures to show you what we've done. We're the ones doing all those neighbors over there. And we can get your lawn cleaned up twice a week. We'll trim this, we'll trim that. And the person goes, wow, great, fantastic. I'll do it. And when would you like to get started? Sign here, like I mentioned, here's a document. We're only going to do the front lawn. We're going to do it twice a week for this paid price. Do you agree? Yes. And we take checks or you can pay us online. Here's our QR code to pay or whatever. And then the client says, oh, yes, fantastic. And then while Tom is doing that, Jennifer calls Mike and says, hey, Mike, starting next week, you're going to be cutting the following address. You already have the truck and the stuff. And, Mike says, got it. And then Tom goes to the next house, literally. And let's imagine he secures that customer or that house. And then Jennifer picks up the phone and calls Mike. So Tom could focus on the marketing side. Tom could focus on building the customer database while Mike is the one going out there doing the dirty work, right? As far as cutting it. But of course, Mike has to be trained and Mike has to follow the structure and the culture that represents the goals and the mission of Tom and Jennifer's landscaping services. So Mike might get to Tom and say, Mike, Tom, I can't do this by myself. This neighbor's yard is way too big. And then Tom and Jennifer could sit down, look at their finances and say, okay, maybe we can afford to bring in John. And by doing that, we become exponential, meaning that John and Mike can cut a whole lot more grass, still collecting money, and we can continue focusing on knocking on doors while Jennifer may be responsible for filing the paperwork and giving instructions to Mike and John. So someone asked the question here, is it necessary to have a team? Yes and no. If you are doing a product where, let's assume that you are you're an artist, you paint, your customers will sit down and you draw them from start to finish. Well, it's going to be hard to get another person to do exactly what you do. If you are a producer, There's something about being a producer that is, like you could hear a Dr. Dre beat, that's Dre. So you can't necessarily divide in every aspect of business, but anything that's based on what I like to call widgets, meaning there are some instructions to follow or a source code that you're giving to someone that they can execute on an elementary level, like making a burger. Okay, here's the bread. My job is to provide the bread and the ingredients. Your job is to take the bread, put it this way, and put all the stuff in between, put it in this box, put a label on it. You've made the burger. But my job is to bring the recipe of the burger. So what you're essentially becoming is a small corporation or entity that has instructions that you're giving to people that you have perfected, and now you're able to teach and pass on to someone. I can see from the look of Ike's face, I'm flying over the radar now.
But it is great. It is great because I think that the balance is good, right? We can do the fly over the radar thing and then also bring it back and be like, okay, take it step by step and that kind of a thing again. But definitely, we have someone here embarrassing us with riches.
Right. Shout out to Slabbed Out, right?
Slabbed Out Enterprises, he says, no words necessary, listen and learn with $250. That's like the super executive level suite sponsor of the show. You're a sponsor of the month, as a matter of fact. If we were to divide that, because $20 makes you a sponsor of the show, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and give you a wrench. And you're always welcome back. Make sure you subscribe. I don't know if you're a subscriber or not, but definitely much appreciated. Yes, and I saw the question also by the Green Vegan about the team, which also just coincidentally we were talking about the team. And so you mentioned, yes, if you're doing some kind of artist type thing, there's a different way of kind of expanding exponentially. Okay, if you're Stephen King, you can't write you're Stephen King, you're a book writer, right?
Right.
There's a different game to be played there in order to get that growth.
Right.
But I like the way you described it, where you're going to start mowing lawns, buy that new lawnmower, then get the loan. Now you're mowing more lawns. Now you need help. Then you're going to focus on the getting of the money. Now, this is how this thing tends to happen, okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and share it anyways. Like, I don't think it's not that crazy, okay? Not that crazy. In other words, here's the deal, right? Let's say you're an engineering student. You graduate from engineering school in a couple of years. Let me see here. 50 times 40 hours. You're working regular 40-hour work weeks. And you're getting like about like $100,000 a year. That's like $50 per hour. Okay. Now, here's the point I'm trying to make in a rather clumsy way. What Tom was doing, in Tom and Jennifer's lawn mowing services,
Right.
was now he was going to a situation where now he just needs to get the money and he can pass it on. In other words, pass on a fraction of it
Right.
to an employee, that is, to employee. Now, why am I showing this here? What I mean is this, okay? Because Tom and Jennifer, or because Ike, has started Prometheus Engineering, okay? And he is now the kind of person that can go and knock on a door and get some money, okay? He can easily give this new engineer, okay? I can give them $100 an hour, okay? And keep, because more or less what you're looking at here is a $500 an hour job, right? The client will give me $500 an hour to give somebody else $100 an hour. This is where that exponential growth starts coming in, because this is where you need to start picturing, because people wonder, how does this thing actually happen? It's not that I'm going to start doing, I only have 24 hours in a day.
That's right.
Okay. When you expand, when you're getting more money, it doesn't mean you're just creating more time in the day. The thing is, let's say I give Johnny $100 an hour. The thing is, no one is going to give Johnny the work because Johnny has not established himself in the market. You get the point? It's similar to the thing that we said earlier. The bank will not give you the loan. The lady will not give you the number, blah, 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 unless you have demonstrated mastery. Because Ike in Prometheus Engineering, or because Tom and Jennifer has demonstrated themselves as business people in this community, the client will give them money. They can then take fractions of the money and give to someone else, and that person will be satisfied. Notice, I gave this engineer $100 an hour. He's earning 50. They're like, woo, that's great. But I just kept 400, right? And I just get the business. I give the guy 100. I keep 400. Some people might think, but, oh, well, isn't that user, like, aren't you just taking advantage of the person?
No, they're happy.
No, you don't understand what it takes to get to the point or to be getting this $500, right? They just think you think that no. Tom and Jennifer, okay, had to start the business, take the risk, knock down on the first few doors, go through the clumsy little lawnmowers or whatever, save the money, buy the next lawnmower, do until they get to the point now they're established, they've demonstrated mastery that people will then give them money. They turn around and give a fraction. This is how it works. That's why, number one, you should be motivated to go into this kind of a flow. In other words, start a business.
Right.
And also, you should understand that mindset of, oh, these people are just getting money and only giving me pittance. They have taken the risk and done a lot of work and are still taking the risk, because you don't take any risk, right? The guy that I gave $100 an hour to and I'm keeping the 400, they're not, if something blows up in the job, something goes wrong or whatever, it's under my insurance. I'm the stamper, blah, 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 blah. So I think that is very, very relevant. And shout out to another super chatter in the house. Okay. Sika Enyang, the Nigerian brother in the house, has been waiting for this. Let's go. Let us go indeed. Shout out to Practitioner in the house. He says, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. So now we were talking about funding, and from funding, we transitioned into hiring people. Okay. Right. Now, you flew over the radar on that one and talked about the aspects. Okay. You anticipated the next question and the things that are why you should hire people and why you should have a team, and in a very granular way, showing how Tom and Jennifer are continuing to grow their business. And then I gave this example of, hey, I can go out there and demand $500 an hour and give you $100 an hour because I've established myself. And the quote unquote established myself, that's the work, the starting, which is the hardest part. Okay. Right. Waking up tends to be hard. Starting writing that paper tends to be hard. Okay. Starting the business and getting to a certain point is the hard part. That's why you keep the bulk of the change. That's why, hey, because I could tell Johnny, if Johnny's like, hey, how come I want to get $100? I was like, okay, what's stopping you from going to knock on that door and demanding 500? Johnny goes and knocks on the door. He's like, still like, get out of here. We don't know you. Who are you? Right. So Johnny, if he wants to, and he should, that's the point of this whole stream, Johnny should then start his own Johnny's engineering services and build to the point where he can now demand that 500 and give somebody 100. So that's right. Now, are there any personal struggles that you've come you know in any one of your businesses? Because you give examples of your consulting group, for example. Any one of your businesses, or in the university, or so on and so forth. Hiring decisions that you've made that you've regretted, right? Or things that you've learned from vis-a-vis the hiring process, the selection process in general, that you can share with us.
Well, there was I thought you were going somewhere with personal struggles. The challenge with running the business is there are times where you don't feel encouraged. You don't feel like knocking on the door, right? You don't feel like going to the neighbor's house. Matt, let's go into Tom and Jennifer's world. It's raining so bad. It's raining 2 weeks straight. Your lawnmowers are parked. You aren't paying any money to Mike and John. Money is not coming in because you have to put the lawn mowing on pause, or your super lawnmower broke down and your clients are calling you mad because their grass is all grown. Well, guess what? All that falls on you. They're not going to talk to. In fact, if they do see John on the street, go, hey, John, you haven't come and cut my yard. They go, I don't know. Go ask Tom. Go ask Tom. In other words, the weight of the business always falls on your head. So the other part of your question is, you said what your other question was, what were the challenges, or
in terms of the hiring of the people, and also in terms of decisions hiring people that you made, that you regretted, things you learned from. I know that any business owner, you have all kinds of things. So what are the things? But basically, if you could crystallize the lessons that you've learned in kind of bullet points as to how we can help people here in this regard?
Well, this is probably going to be the hardest part of running a business, is finding that one special person. I'll give you an example. When I was looking to expand certain areas of the university, we put out an ad that we're looking for someone that can do A, B, and C, and we had about 13 people interested, and out of the 13, 2 were guys, and the rest were ladies. And we sent out an interview for the resumes that looked most promising, and to 4 out of all the resumes we sent to, 4 of them responded. One of them, I can't remember her name, it wouldn't even matter. She comes in, and it was a good interview, and we start, and the office is really quiet. My office is quiet. I mean, there's an ugly radio playing some boring songs, as there should in any office. And the next day, she calls and says she's running late, and she comes in and says she wants to put in her 2-week notice. And I said, why? She says, it's so quiet. And I thought, I looked at the job description. You must, the office is quiet. You must be willing to work by yourself. And she just said, I can't do it. So we reached out to the other qualifying candidate. She came in, and I said, okay, listen, it is very, very quiet in here. Okay. It can get very boring. Oh, that's going to be no problem. And a week later, she says, it's just way too quiet in here. So I kind of sat back and went, all right, I got to change my strategy. So we brought this other girl for an interview, and she was more of the one answer respond. Do you feel comfortable working in a quiet office? That's okay. All right. What, every question she was given 1-line answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not sure about the hire, but my partner was like, I think she's going to be good. So we start, it's day 1. So we go past the 1 day. Then we go past the 1 week, and then 2 weeks. And then I noticed that she would be on the computer she's always doing. And then as soon as I would get in the office, she was like, oh, this email came in. I took care of this. I took care of that. Is there anything else you need me to do? I'm like, yeah, this and this and this and that. And she'll do it. And then 30 minutes later, she goes to my office. I'm done. And I'm like, you can go get me coffee. She's like, okay, does anyone else want coffee? And she makes the list. And 15 minutes later, I'm like, what, did you cut the line? Everything about her was fast and good. So I went, I think this girl's ready. And I brought her some more work. And this is work that I didn't want to do. I just filed it in the back of my head. I want to do this stuff. I gave it to her. I thought it'll take like maybe the whole week. And by the end of her shift, she was like, I'm done doing that. I'm doing this. I'm thinking, I looked up and said, like, thank you, God. So what's the story learned here is the ones that are going to follow and hold on to your vision aren't necessarily going to be that obvious. They're not going to walk in and go, oh my God, I'm going to mow your lawn and do it the way they might be shy. They might be quiet. They might give you 1-line answers. Watch out for the overly excited. Yes. I'm going to do this, because that's a sign that they're just trying to impress you. So sometimes just give them a chance. You're going to go through the bad ones. I had one employee that would go on break, and he was always 15 minutes late from his break because he's arguing with his girlfriend. You realize that sometimes young employees are always got problems. The older employees might not be as fast, but they're more committed and more willing because they have a bill to pay. They have a mouth to feed. So they tend to be a little bit more committed. So what am I saying? Sometimes, not all the time. The workers that have children are the ones that are going to make sure they're never late. They don't want to get fired. They want to do everything right. That does not mean that someone who doesn't have any children is not the same, because this one particular employee, she's a single girl with no kids, has 2 dogs. But I swear, when she told me that she had to leave because she had just finished a master's to go work for, under her major, I was heartbroken. And I said, you know what? I'll keep you on a retainer. I just need you to work for me 1 day a week. I'll pay you directly. Don't even worry about a paycheck. I'll just sell you the money, right? And she's still working for me till this day, because I know I can give her a task and go to sleep when I wake up. It's detailed with bullet points. Let me tell you how detailed this girl is. She'll submit her reports with table of contents. So all I have to do is look at the first page of the document.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So to answer the question, in our terms here on this channel is you're going to go through some bad ones. Okay. You're going to go through some that will steal money from you. You're going to go through some that will defame you and say negative things about you. But that's why you get the right to keep the 400, right? That's why you have the right to not work for a month and go on vacation. And these are the downsides of it. So in simply put, you hire people and train them. Be sure you train, right? Because if you do not train, you can't have the expectations that they understand everything that your business has. I would imagine if Tom hires Mike or John, Tom's going to go through, this is how I like to mow the lawn. This is how I cut it. And he's going to go through some trial locations. Maybe Tom might take Mike to his yard and do his yard so he can show off his skills first. So it's very important to train your employees, very important to share your mission. Tell them what your goal is. Like we said on one of the previous casts, Apple, most people don't know this, Apple employees are not allowed to use the word unfortunately, and they're not allowed to put the customer in a position of fault. Try it. Go to an Apple store, get as mad as you want. They will never say it's your fault. So that's because Apple has put that culture and that vision in their mind. And it's very important to do the same thing. That's what the multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar companies do.
I see. Another thing just to mention about finding freelancers. Okay, you can go to keep things very simple here. There's Upwork, for example, and I think there was someone else who gave some other examples of these places where you can find freelancers. Okay, Fiverr.
Yeah, Fiverr is one I use. The one I was trying to remember was actually Freelancer. That's where I found my developer.
Gotcha. Freelancer, Upwork, Fiverr, Guru, okay?
Right.
And these are also places where you can, if you're starting out,
right,
find
you can get work.
Right, exactly. So you can hire people in, or that could be the place where you start like, hey, you know what? I'm particularly good at this particular thing, and I give great reports with tables of contents and so on and so forth. So let me go out there and put myself out there and get a business, okay? Now, I think that was great what you mentioned about the answering. And if I may just reiterate or highlight a few of the points. Point being, you are going to go through an iterative process. You're going to kiss some frogs, right? For you to find the prince.
The prince.
And
that's right.
you need to understand going in that they're rare, right? And it tends to be the case. You're a businessman. You start businesses. You're dynamic. You do all kinds of things. You start thinking that that's how people are.
Not far from it.
No. And that's your mistake, okay? You take responsibility. It's not them. There's nothing wrong with them. You are the one that needed to understand that, oh, you're a duck. You're a weirdo. People don't roll like that. So you have to go in with the understanding that you're not just going to find, I'm just going to find my twin out there, and it's just going to be perfect. No. And then you mentioned that with the iteration, right? So you got the person, they told you the problem that they had and it was too quiet. Then you use that in the next process. You told the next person that, it was, a quiet place. And then you use certain kind of statistical knowledge about, well, younger people will have this kind of problems, generally speaking.
Right.
Older people will be more stable and more reliable, but they are not perhaps not so fast, not so up on the technology.
Right.
So on and so forth. So all that stuff is really, 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 really cool that you broke it down that way. Now, how was the process different? Okay, if you can tease out. And you let me know if there are no differences in each time you started a business, because you've been involved with, web services and web administration or IT, and also in the education space, and also in music. So you've started several businesses. Okay.
Right.
Now, how was the experience different each time?
Well, after starting your first one, you learn quickly. And so I'll give you an example. When I recently started my last one, where I separated all of my consulting services into its own space, NGP Consulting, I literally went on Fiverr, had someone do a logo for me, and paid them. Not even, no, it was one of those online do-it-yourself logos, and you pay for the thing. And I did that Friday night. And Monday morning, I went to the DBA office. Tuesday, I had a bank account. And by that week, I had gotten a check written to me.
Okay, so stop. This is something that this is something about fear that people have. Let me I'm gonna take a sip. Jesus Christ, slabbed out. What's going on here?
I think we just brought some good info. This is good information, y'all. People pay money to go to seminars for this stuff, you know.
Yes, they do. Over here in this channel, in our little community where we talk about being better and doing better. Trust me, you guys are getting great gems, and go check out the playlist, whether it's about mastery of subjective consciousness or sales, persuasion, business, so on and so on and so on and so on. And by the way, I am going to have the Roadcaster, and I'm going to be yes, practitioner. I see what you're doing there. I'm gonna have my little sound bites and this, that, and the other. But look, it's I'm at a loss for words. This is it's not me, okay? It's not it's not me. It's not a trick, okay? Or maybe it's, I'm having an out of body experience, multiple personalities. No, I did not set this up. I am the king. I will not be. Anyways, inside joke, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you very much. Okay. Slabbed out again says that this is $500 now. Okay, $250, another $250. People pay thousands of dollars for this information.
That's right.
No replacement for experience. Okay, well, thank you. Now, I wanted to stop you there at that point where you were saying the next time around, okay, because you learn. Because here's one thing people tend to do. They say, what if it all comes crashing down? And this is with anything, okay? With anything, okay? People have this weird idea that if it takes you 10 years to get to a certain point, if it comes crashing down, it's going to take 10 years again.
No.
You're crazy. No. Okay? You already know exactly what to do, right? You're not going to go over to the door A, B, and C. You already know that it's door Z, right? You already know where to start, where not to go. You already know, okay, I'm not going to go waste my time going to banks to ask until I've done these other things. Take Tom and Jennifer starting another lawn mowing business, right? They already know that they're like, okay, by week 6, we're going to have done all these other things. We're going to have these documents in line, and we're going to go get that thing. Trust me, and by the end of year 1, it is possible that they are where they were, what took them 10 years, because there is a lot of trial and error, a lot of bumping into the wall, a lot of, that kind of a thing. So I just wanted to stop you to kind of make that point particularly clear, that Definitely. You learned, and then it did not take you a long time, and you already got your first paycheck, in terms of when you started the next business. Okay.
Right.
And I think I cut you off.
That's fine.
Anything you wanted to continue, with regards of with the differences in these different kinds of businesses that you've started.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, you gain a certain level of pardon me, let me just I had a call there. You gain a certain level of experience and confidence that you kind of walk with a swag. It's like another thing I love to exercise. I remember when I started, I would work out and I would need like 4 or 5 days to recover. My muscles were so sore. Now I work out every day. So, the muscles know what's coming. They know that, this kind of weight is it. So they've gained experience. So it gives you an experience. So you suddenly I got to have my business cards. I got to have my forms. I got to have my invoices ready. I have to get my bank account. I know that I need to publish in a newspaper. I know that this is the office that I need to go to. I know that this is what clients like. This is what you must tell a client. I know this is how to train. This is what not to allow. This is what is not an employee's responsibility versus mine, things in that nature. And it's so much easier to just go through with another one. Now, the challenges or what makes it different when you're doing music clients are different. They come in and sometimes, you might have a rapper that's very good at rapping, but doesn't know how to manage the time. In the studio, it's metronome typically is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, drop, right? But they would count to 9. And then, some artists can't get that count. You got to say, no, it's not 9, bro. It starts at the 8 count or the 4 count. You come in. And then And then you have some artists that can sing really well, but can't stay on the key. So in that business space, what I learned and adjusted is this is how much studio time is, and however long it's going to take you to get on the metronome, bro, take your time. I'm charging you by the hour. So that's what we do in that aspect. And then I'm going to mix and master your track. I will do 3 revisions. When I first started, the client would say, can you make the guitars a little bit louder? And when you make the guitars louder in the mix, now you have to make the piano louder. Then you have to make the vocals louder. And now you have to compensate on your kick drums. And it becomes this whole mess. So what I tell clients is, listen, I will do 3 revisions. Okay. And after 3 revisions, I will charge more. So you gain that experience. So every entity has this set of challenges, and you have to be ready for that. So your first experience has to tell you that when I was doing my lawnmower business, some clients were mad because their flowers were trampled on, right? So now when you're exploring a new neighborhood, potentially where you want to expand, where Tom and Jennifer want to expand, you're going to have a meeting with your guys, right? All right, Mike and John, listen up. When you see that a yard has flowers, do not cut the flowers. Make sure you watch where you trample your feet on so you don't trample on the flowers. So every business will bring its set of challenges, but as far as the startup, that's always, that becomes something that you should be familiar with in the requirements. As far as, how you manage your customers, managing your money, managing your profits, your losses, things of that nature, they should be familiar territory. But, every business has its set of challenges. The Monloan business has its challenges. Consulting business has the challenges. I got a client. So you're telling me I put $2,000 in marketing and I haven't got a customer in 2 months? Well, you haven't. All right. I have no control over that. But one thing I will tell you is no marketing is bad. Any marketing is good. You have marketing, so that means good, right? So the next client you're going to, then you make a clause in your contract. By paying this money for marketing, I cannot guarantee that you will get customers. However, you can opt out of this marketing after 1 month, and it's non-refundable. I always tell my clients that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call sunk cost. It is water that you pour in the sand. You cannot retrieve it, right? So it you learn, and it really it helps your disclosure game big time. It helps your preparation game. You know that something is going to come up, but it's not going to be a new feeling. You're not going to sit there and go, here we go. You actually start to laugh like, oh, here we go. Yeah, I know what this feels like. All right, Mr. Customer, Mr. Client, here's what we need to do here. So it really makes you better at managing the deeper aspects of your business as far as customer management, customer satisfaction, and to some degree, your piece. You want to, leave with the client and know I gave it all. I did everything I needed to do. I was as transparent as possible. So when you get in your car, you don't need to call someone and vent. Rather, you could just put on and start singing, Sweet American Pie or something in your car. Something like what I do. I get in my car, put on my autopilot, and start singing a song because it was a good day, right? So that's that.
That's you know what, I think we have one guest in the house, but let me ask you this as we go along here, and we're not going to be much longer, kind of keep these concise, that way we can chop it up, because this one definitely, along with some of our other streams, I want to chop it up and kind of into nice little clips, on the selling, the buying process, the closing. We've done some quite good work, if I may say so myself. Now, how would you describe your role as the president of American Heritage University? So far, you've been telling us about your other businesses, your consulting business, even your music production business. But as the president of American Heritage University, how would you describe your role? And by the way, is that what takes most of your time these days?
Lately, yes, because I am trying to change the recognition status of the university by going for a national accreditation. So that has taken more of my time. So my job as a president is to every university has 3 major departments. The academic department, which is what the student learns while they're in the school. The admissions department, which is how we get the student in and when the student leaves the school. And so we call it pre and post. And then we have student services. That's the main part of student that we have to give student services to the student. We have to give them education, and we have to give them, we have to bring them in and make sure they can graduate and complete. Now that in itself, we could put another layer on top of that. I have to have the right instructors that are qualified to teach them everything in the academic department. I have to have the right staff in the administrative department that can make sure that they're following the policies and procedures that are set forth by my governing board. They make sure that they are implementing all of the rules and following the services provided by student services. So there's an overseer over there. I have to make sure that my agreements and partnerships with other universities, cross-border education, that my students in across the world, in India, in Europe, are getting the education that they need to get, that I'm meeting my clients or my partners overseas, I'm meeting their expectations, we're processing transcripts on time. It is my job to take all the assessment that we get. Are we making our goals? What was our enrollment numbers like? My job is to bring ideas to improve enrollment, to reduce our attrition rate. My job is to make sure that our finances are in order. So I get a report from the finance department that the students are paying their tuition on time, money is coming in, take care of all of our expenses, and my job is also to explore other potential partnerships and memorandum of understanding, what we call MOUs, to other institutions, so we can grow our student body. And the hardest part of my job is keeping up with the compliance and the annual reports. Again, this is where it gets tough, because sometimes those reports are, one report I had was about 1,200 pages. And
the compliance reports are from where or to where? It sounds like some kind of government type thing.
Yeah, so we have to report to the Bureau, which is the the Bureau for post-secondary education in California. And then when we were under DAC, Department of Education of Distant Learning Education Commission, and then for the law school, which is the State Bar of California, and they have their reports. And a lot of those reports are filled with open-ended questions and supporting documentations that we call exhibits. So keeping track of those reports, all the exhibits, getting everyone to submit their part, it's challenging. But when you have, and Ike has talked about this, when you have practiced a lot of self-discipline, you realize that 24 hours is a lot of time. When you manage your time properly, that's why I could sit here on this cast. As much as I have all these things to do, I planned my day and made sure that by 5:45 p.m. today, I'm available. So planning your day becomes a lot more important. Like we said, the simple things, the little things, the soft skills, they play a role here. Communicating properly. Like, I've learned communication, and I was sharing this, I think, with someone the other day, that a statement closes the mind, a question opens it. So,
Indeed.
Like I do with my staff, they'll say, I can't do this. Well, you've just made a statement, but the question should be, how do I do this? I had when we were doing a report, one of my staff came to me and said, the catalog is in a PDF document. I can't edit it. And I said, well, do you know how? They said, no. Well, why don't you Google it? And, oh, look, I just realized that this is what you do. I'm like, well, there you go. So it's those little questions that you ask yourself that trigger the mind, as opposed to I can't. Because when the moment you say that you can't do something, you become it. I can't, then as a result, you cannot. But how do I? How can I? Where do I? Who can? And they start to open up avenues. So the first question we talked about, I want to start a business. Well, how do I do that? And that's exactly what this podcast, or this what we're discussing today. These are practical steps that anyone that has a vision or wants to start a business can take, just by triggering the question, and the question will give birth to the steps to follow.
Excellent. And to hearken upon that point that you made there, even if it's a negative question, like, oh, well, I can't start a business. Rather, what you should ask then, well, why can't I start a business? Right. Go find out why. Enumerate it. I'm not saying go start it. I'm saying have the answers. Ask the question. And, from there, you might start learning something. And next thing you know, you're actually the expert. You start a business telling people why they can start a business, right? You find that's your thing. Now, you know what? I found that I'm particularly good with answering that question as to why people think they can't, but they actually can. And now you're the top consultant in terms of, having people start up their small business. Now, I believe that is truth in the house. Can you say something? How's your audio? What do you have for us, sir?
Oh, shit. What's good? Let me hop on camera with you. I went and got the suit on so I can match the aesthetic.
You'd better.
Honestly, I was appreciating the jewels you guys were dropping. I've only got a little bit of experience managing a workforce. I was a project manager for a while, and hiring manager. I'm an owner operator, and I'm actually really interested in hiring my first employees. So I actually was taking notes. I can't lie. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be using this information. And
You're owner operator of, if you don't mind, what industry and what kind of business?
logistics and supply chain.
Okay.
Logistics and supply chain owner operator looking to hire your. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like I look like shit. I literally just threw this on. My hair is a mess and shit. But yeah, no. So basically, what I do is I contract with various shipping services like FedEx, UPS. Those are the ones most people will know. But there's like local ones that are a little smaller too. I have more work than I can even fulfill, and so it just makes sense to get drivers. And now I'm getting into purchasing trucks. I'm about to buy my first truck, and I'm about to hire someone to drive it. And I'm like, yo, that's a lot of responsibility. I got to really. And if my first instinct was cousins and friends, and I was like, nah. Let me find a pure stranger who's a nerd. Ideally, someone who's like 35, maybe has a kid. And then you guys were just giving me ideas. So yeah, like I said,
yeah. Cool. What do you have to say about that, Artois?
Well, I first of all, congratulations on your business moves. When you start to think of all the work that comes with what you're trying to do, it's frightening, but entertain that fright, entertain it, and have a conversation with that fright. What's the worst that can happen if I got a truck and this work out? I can sell the truck. I can lease a truck. I can start a truck leasing company, right? I can become a consultant, you know? So what I would say to what you're trying to do, go for it. And in regards to hiring someone with a kid, when people have responsibilities, let's use the word a kid as a responsibility, they tend to be more committed. They tend to be self-driven. They're more willing to learn and commit themselves to your vision. Again, like I mentioned earlier, that doesn't mean that someone who's not with responsibilities can't give you that, but you'll find that a lot easier in someone that has responsibilities, or someone that has a vision. You know, the rep that I had, she wanted to get a nicer car. She wanted to move out of the house. She wanted to do all these different things, and her commitment to what I needed her to do was going to bring her some financial resources that would bring her closer to her personal goals. So that's what I would say to that. The ones that have responsibilities typically are going to be a lot more committed to your vision. And another thing that I learned is I think I talked about this. We talked about this before. Is you have to know what kind of leader you want to be, right? I'm the type of leader, we would sit down and we would have lunch. We would laugh and talk about many different things, but I was always ready to work when it was time to work, jokes aside. And having an interest in the life of your people, it makes them feel a little bit more committed to you. You know, they feel like they're a part of the family. Like with that person I was talking about, when she told me she had to leave, I was heartbroken, but I made an arrangement to keep her once a week, and I pay her Zelle. I'm like, I'm just giving you money for being who you are. She still does work for me. So the point is to when you make disciples out of these people, they will fight for you even when you're sleeping or attending to big and crazy reports and things that you have to do that come with being the CEO. You would have these people out there doing all the dirty work for you and looking out for your best interest.
That is perfect. You mentioned this discipleship thing, which I did my last stream. Okay, I believe that was on Tuesday. We go live over here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. That is Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. On Tuesday, I talked about staying above board, okay, creating concentric circles, okay, concentric circles of protection, okay, not going down into the fray, not getting dragged into the muck. Now, something that you mentioned about, or let me ask you, Truth, okay, let me ask you this. How did you overcome the initial fears of starting the business to begin with? Because now you're afraid to take this next step, okay, but obviously not a lot of people start businesses or out there doing this kind of thing that you're doing on their own and so on and so forth. Well, what kind of advice would you have? Because this is, again, this whole stream, as you may have gathered, right, it's about starting. Why should you start? What should you start? How do you start? Okay. And a big part is fear and so on and so forth. But if you have any advice on that initial stages, maybe about fear, maybe about indecision, maybe about what do I do, what would you say to the audience, sir?
Those are great questions. Honestly, so it's funny because I don't know how baby I look. I feel like people never guess. I'm 29. And I know if you spoke to 10 years ago, Chris, I was fucking terrified. And I had a great poker face. So you wouldn't have known I was terrified. But considering the potential I possessed, I was so scared to use it. And it was much more comfortable to doubt myself than to challenge myself. So instead of asking myself if I could do something, even if I couldn't do it. So let's say something takes a 10 and I only have a 5. Instead of asking myself, how can I figure out where that 5 is? I was like, can I ever do anything? I don't know how to explain. It was like the only thing that would really push me through at that point, honestly, was fear and fear of regret. Like fear. Yeah, the only driving force for me was fear, because as long as I had the ability to be complacent, like I could go get a job here. I didn't have to work too hard to make a substandard living. It was like I could just easily hide from whatever was intimidating. What really pushed me over the edge, honestly, personally, and everyone's going to have their own thing. And they even teach you this in sales. You got to have your why. My why was proving to my family I was competent. I'm going to just be honest. I really wanted my mom's respect. I really wanted, I mean, everyone wants money. And when people think money, they'll think of a house, cars, you know, women, whatever. But you'll have a really close kernel reason that can push you out of your comfort zone. And for me, it was, you know, buying my mom the big house on the hill. And I don't think that's a good reason, by the way. So that's its own conversation. But the point is, it was a good motivator for me to find the courage to just pursue my dreams without fear of failure. And that was the real thing for me, was the fear of failure, because I had to realize I'd rather fail something than never try it, which sounds like a cliche, but it's so real when the time is ticking and you're like, I could have done this. And like I said, I was 19 when I first started having these thoughts. I didn't start a business until I was 24. I actually had a really good career. Not career. It was like a gig job. But I live in Las Vegas, valet and bartending. I was cleaning the fuck up. Right? I was cleaning up. But it's not really a career. And it wasn't something I pictured long term and whatever. So I'm like, okay, I really want to start taking this capital I have and put it into something that's long term. But I couldn't figure out the ease of entrance into businesses, and I still didn't have a full. I'm rambling. Fuck my story. No one cares about my story. This is the takeaway. Sorry. This is the takeaway, right? So first there was the emotional fear, the disconnection from reality. I don't tell people to be optimists or pessimists. Be a realist. See what you really are. See what you are really good at. See, like, don't be scared of noticing you're better at things than others. Don't be scared of improving on things you suck at. Stop being scared of weakness. Like, there's a how-to. Go Google the how-to right now. How-to stop looking at this. It's out there. So then the only thing limiting you is your creativity. And then it's like, honestly, the amount of different ways you can make money are overwhelming. You just want to find something that calls to you. Like, you can do a flipping. You can start off as someone who purchase low, sell high. You do that in stocks, cars. But you can go on Facebook Marketplace right now, find somebody selling a pair of shoes for $20 under market, and you can buy that Jordan, flip the Jordan for $20 more.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there are little places you can start to realize there's money all around you. And as far as building a business, honestly, you have to get educated on the concept of money, investment, getting money out of one person's pockets and into yours. Why? Supply, demand. Bringing a product to the market. All of these are really intuitively understood this simply. People buy, first and foremost, truthfully, people don't buy products, they buy relationships. They buy brands, they buy association, they buy emotional status, like things that make them feel a certain way. And then the second thing is they buy shit they actually use. They buy shit that they're going to be interacting with all the time. So one of the easiest ways to make money is just get in the middle of something. Like even what I'm doing logistics, and it's like, at the end of the day, people buy a product. It has to get to their house somehow. And these giant logistics firms like UPS, Amazon, FedEx, they have the image of being able to handle everything, but they can't. They can't. The day-to-day operations, they have to contract that to a third party.
Right.
That's what gives you the opportunity to fill that hole.
Exactly.
You can use that to branch off. Anyway, I'm rambling, so I'll wrap it up well then.
No, I think there are a few key points to take away there from what you said. It also hinges upon what Aitoa said earlier about knowing the kind of manager that you are. And then you mentioned knowing that you were motivated by fear and then understanding your why. Now, the kind of personality type thing is super key. You need to know, and then so you know that your blind spots. You also mentioned that, you said to know what you're good at and know what you suck at, right? When it comes to managing people, because this is your question that you initially came in with, like you're going to bring in people. So you're going to know what your style is. I am Gordon Ramsay, okay? That's my style. Now, that's not the best for certain kinds of things. And if you watch my channel, you you get that I don't really have a lot, I don't have a lot of patience for like, you know what I mean? Just get out of here. I say things like, oh, if you're a pig, leave. Okay, this is not for pigs, it's for human beings. That's my style, okay? Now, that's not going to really work for every, in certain situations, right? So what Aitoa said, for example, the having of lunches and being interested in the employee's life, that's not me. And that's okay. I don't care about your life, okay? But that's okay. But the good thing is that I know it. And I'm going to bring in somebody that is good at that kind of thing, okay?
Right.
But because trust me, there is a need for a Gordon Ramsay, right?
There always a need.
Taking, he's in the front of the line, they're going to take the hill. Rah, let's go, right? That's my thing. I'm that rah-rah cheerleader, take risk type of thing. And when it comes to motivation, I'm more motivated by fear as well, but moving into fear. I'm just like a risk taker type. It's almost like I want to accelerate the failure. It's like, oh, something's going to happen. Let's make it happen.
That's a good one. Accelerate the failure.
Accelerate the failure. The sooner it happens, the better. I don't want to be up here, being like, oh, trying to manage and mitigate. I always use the bicycle riding example, right? That, hey, you can read books about riding a bicycle. You can spreadsheet the riding of a bicycle. You could talk about bicycle seats, bicycle frames, bicycle helmets, trails to ride, right? But when you get on that bicycle, what's going to happen? You're going to fall. You're going to fall. Right? So just get on the bicycle, start falling quickly, okay? So we're going to wrap this up, okay, real quick. I'm going to do a real kind of rehash of what this thing was all about and see to the degree to which possible I can kind of encapsulate the points that were made by Aitoa here. Thank you very much for your time. I know that you're a very, very busy man. So basically, getting started is hard, okay? Getting started is difficult. Like, why should I start? What should I do? Because, well, why is it hard? Because you have not developed the muscle memory, okay? You have not developed the habits. You do not have the momentum. You don't have the rewards. You don't have the dopaminergic kind of spring thing going, right? So there's a lot, therefore, of inertia in the beginning of anything, okay? So the recognition that it is hardest in the beginning, I think it's key in the sense that don't feel bad. Just kind of think, in my journey to becoming the next whatever, my journey to making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month, my journey to making $100,000 a month, right now, starting is the hardest part. And that is an optimistic point of view. You're like, this is actually the hardest part right now. So therefore, you know what? That's great, right? Because so it's like now I have the moment, which is now I have that, I own that, and this is actually the hardest part. Therefore, go ahead. So, but we wanted to kind of talk about starting vis-a-vis startups. I wanted to give very simple, concise, actionable things, not get too intuitive this time. I had a conversation with Aitoa prior to this. I was like, because we're creative types, we conceptualize, we always go on that third dimension and start flying around, right? Like, oh yeah, look at that over there. Nah, this is that. And you know how this is also related to that other thing we talked about last week, and and you're like, but we wanted to calm down a little bit, okay, and say, hey, Aitoa, What is the first business you started? How do you start a business?
Right.
What is a DBA, right? So we started out talking about, well, why you should solve a problem. Why you should start a business. And that's because there is an infinite number of problems to solve, okay? And problems do need solving. And as I mentioned in one of my last streams, you can't say, hey, you know what? I'll leave the problems to be solved by human beings. Like the human beings over there, they solve problems with me. I'm not a human being, right? I believe I called those people pigs. But I'm going to be a little bit more generous this time around. Like, hey, be a human being. And there are human problems out here in the world, and we need to solve them. You may be more of an altruistic type, and you're like, I want to do a nonprofit. But trust me, you still need you need just as much money coming into a nonprofit than not. Profit versus nonprofit is just a tax designation, as far as I'm concerned. Right? It doesn't mean it's the same business. It still needs money, still needs hard sales, it still needs persuasion, marketing. Money still needs to come in. Problems still needs to be solved. Okay, so why start a business? Well, problems to be solved. What are you good at? Okay, what are some of the examples? And then we got into this whole thing about Mr. Tom and Jennifer, right? We got into Tom and Jennifer. We stumbled into Tom and Jennifer, and they're starting a lawn mowing business, okay?
Yes,
and then we used that to go through the whole process of how do you start a business? You mentioned give it a name. Give it a name and have a mission statement. The mission statement you mentioned is the GPS address of what you're trying to achieve. It's the simpler, the better. Things will revolve around it. You'll be having all these other ideas, ancillary products, services, and software that shoot out from this. Okay. I mentioned that, look, there is exponential growth if you add 20 more hours to your work week to the men out there. Okay. It's especially to the men out there. Okay. No complaining about work. Work. Add those 20 hours, be healthy, love life, that kind of stuff. And that, by the way, you would have lived like 20 years within the space of 6 years. You say that again. Somebody between 2014 and 2020, what the regular person who was just doing his regular, 9-to-5 deal, he lived 6 years. You'll have lived 20 years. You'll be literally about 14 years ahead of the person simply because of the extra time and also because of the compounding effects. You talked about how you started your first business, Aitoa, how you went out and you were fixing surround sounds. And then next thing comes the computers of the people. And then next come the websites, right? And referrals and so on and so forth. We went through in a granular fashion the struggles of bringing in people in the team and so on and so on and so on. So I would ask, okay, because I want to give Aitoa the last word, okay? So Truth, did you have any last words on this? Okay, it could even be a question if anyone popped into your mind that you wanted to ask, vis-a-vis the hiring that you're trying to do, or having given this summary, be it as it may that I just gave. Any last words, and then we'll have Aitoa take us out.
I can't lie, it was both refreshing to be asked those series of questions, and then like humiliating that I feel like I hate how I ramble. I need to have if I could try to get out without wasting everyone's time. If you know who you are, that's what I would say. Know who you are. If you're the type of person who really isn't comfortable with risk and really isn't comfortable with, sorry, the dogs are making noise. If you're not comfortable with risk and you're not comfortable with, anxiety and just risk, and you are someone who's more comfortable and doesn't necessarily see a problem with just, grinding away and, or even better yet, you're someone who actually does want to perform a service. Because I think too many people are trying to become entrepreneurs. We still need doctors. We still need lawyers. Like if you are fascinated by the law or some particular subject, it's like, don't feel, in my opinion, pressure to be an entrepreneur. But if you're at all wondering about it, you're already an entrepreneur. In my opinion, if you're already kind of sort of wondering about it, you already are an entrepreneur. And if you know it, and I'm speaking your language right now when I say you're wasting time. You're wasting time. Stop wondering. Stop. Because what happens in life is a lot of time we wait for the natural push, and it will come if you wait long enough. But do not wait for the natural push. Jump in the fucking pool. Now, jump. Go. Fucking go. And then the other thing, once you decide to be an entrepreneur, you're welcome. The internet's here. I swear to God, honestly, the second you just do the due diligence, right? You do the work. There is so much. The world is such a beautiful place. There's so many people out here just trying to make it easy for us. Like there's so many sources of information. And then it comes down to pick your niche. It's got to be something local, right? It's got to be something that you can actually manage. it doesn't necessarily not have to be international, because if it's something internet or online, whatever. But when I say local, I mean it's something tangible, something that's like within your immediate area. For me, it just happened to be doing logistics, which is heavy in demand on the West Coast and the East Coast, like the major cities. I know people who have turned Ubering into purchasing houses that they rent out. There's just, you got to just think about it. Oh, and that's the last thing I'll say. At the end of the day, business, a lot of people want to fall in love with it, and that's fine. You can be a romantic creator, but there's also the alternative of just being a bit of a mastermind, or someone who's like thinking about it as a puzzle and orchestrating it so that everything funnels to you. You don't have to be Michelangelo. You don't have to invent some major new thing. Like the dude who created Snapchat was 21. He's a billionaire. That's lovely. We'd all like that. But if that's all you've got, then that's like, so you want to build a system and feel confident in that you can build a system that is repeatable daily and attached to the daily market, like something that's going to be continually in use, and then just put yourself in the middle of it. There was one more thing I wanted to say, but I think I lost it. But I think that kind of, niche. Then ideally make it low cost to entry, right? You don't want to spend too much money to get involved in it. You want to save that was the last thing. That's right. The don't fall in love part. So yeah, the way I conceptualize it is you just want to look at it as a numbers game. You want to get in low, get out high. It's literally that simple in every single theme. What can you get into for as little amount as money, and that will give you enough profit? And also conceptualize that profit can be made either in low or high volume. So is it a lot of money at once, or is it a little bit of money, but you just fill it up? I had one contract where I was getting $7 jobs and no one wanted them, but I had them giving me 6 jobs an hour, which at the time was a lot. And that's when that was like 4 years ago when I was first getting started in the business. And so I found a niche in volume that most people were scared to touch, but I just made it so I was just always, anyway, the point is, expect your mind to be the solution. Expect you figuring out how to turn something into a profit to be the solution, and look for ways where you can spend a little bit of money to make more. And it can be something like buying a car to start a delivery business, buying a truck to start a trucking company, buying a t-shirt printer to sell t-shirts to different people who put their brands on t-shirts, fucking buying water bottles and going out in the corner and getting a vendor license and selling water bottles on the corner. Everything will have an upfront investment, and you want to profit at the end, and that's all you're doing. And then it's about what's the most maximized worth of your time. What's worth the most of your time? And that's my 2 cents. Well,
do you have a YouTube channel, by the way, Chris or Truth?
Nah. I should, right? I was thinking about it, but nah.
It'll be a good way to practice your communication skills, and then maybe ramble and so on and so forth. But no, definitely much appreciated. Very good luck to you. Okay, always good to hear people out here taking action, and thanks for joining us. Definitely much appreciated.
Oh, thanks for having me, bro. I love being here. Are you kidding me?
Now, and there's just something that you know what? Let me just give you the last word, okay? Because sure. I think, I don't wanna because we've gone away from the mission statement of this. No,
I think the person is it SOB or something entertainment?
SOBC, yeah.
No, whoever gave that donation, that's a testament to what we're saying here as being extremely important. And I think that it took the right time they needed to take. It went over about 30 minutes above the time that I had put aside, but that's all right. What I want to just say in closing is the most important thing is getting over the fear is the first thing. Will Smith once said, everything that you want in your life is on the other side of fear. So fear holds us back, and fear is a motivator, but I'm not going to get into that. All I will say is that for everyone that's made it to the end of this chat, that you want to start a business, get a piece of paper, write down the business name. Don't worry about if it's available or not. Then after you write the name of the business, then write the statement. What do I need to do next? And then the next thing you do is write a mission statement. And then the next thing you're going to do is go to the office and register the business name. Of course, you might get over there. The business name is not available. Change it, but start today. Do something. Start something. Let's imagine if Google never started, if YouTube never started, if Snapchat never started, if Apple never started. So a lot of these great companies have started stuff. So someone said they're taking the notes. Truth, you were just on here with us. So yeah, so make a note and write down some objectives. The key thing is I by the end of this month, I want to have registered the business name. I want to have advertised in a newspaper, and I'm just going to make a business card. You know, if you go to vistaprint.com, they always advertise 500 business cards for $10, right? Make a business card with your business name. Go to fiverr.com. You could probably get a logo for $30 or so. So that's in California, that's an investment of about $150, $200, right? And knowing that that's sunk cost, right? And that's a start. And then in March, because we're in February, in March, you could start telling people what you want to do. And like we mentioned earlier, look for someone you could do it for free for. Don't be worried about getting paid right away. You're going to put some sweat equity in there, right? You're going to put some of your time and your investment in there. And you might be your own capital. You might be your own everything at the beginning. And one thing that's for sure, if you plant anything in the soil and it's watered, it will grow.
Boom.
That's a mandate that's given by our creator. Whether, heck, you don't even have to be a Christian. If you go to any soil and you put a seed in there and you water it, it will grow. Knowing very well that if you are growing and planting a seed, it will grow. That should keep you motivated, because I have never heard a seed. Now, don't put a seed in the concrete, because seeds don't grow in concrete. So that's part of being informed and making good decisions. But start today, start tomorrow. Maybe today you've made some notes. Tomorrow, ask yourself some questions and just go, just do it, just start. You know, one of these days we're going to have a session here where I can go give a tour of my studio. And I will tell you, when I started making music, I had one computer and a $10 microphone. And now I've gone so far in music, I give away microphones. I recently gave away a $300 Bluebird microphone because it was sitting here picking up dust. I've given away keyboards. The point is, start somewhere. Eventually, you're going to end up with the big studio with automated lights and all kinds of stuff that I'm surrounded by. But it didn't start over. You know, I started in 2001 was where I really started pushing my music, and it's taking care of me. You know, many ways I can't say in my closing statements, but start. Give yourself a date. Give yourself some timelines. I want to have a business started by the end of the month. I'm going to get my first customer in March, or my first customers in March, and I'm going to have my first referral by May. Speak it into existence. Those things have a way of working. That's my closing statement.
Bam, bam, bam. DJ Club exclusive. Yes, I will be getting that. I will be getting my board, my Rodecaster, and I will be able to make those sounds and do those things. But I'm gonna let you go, sir. You have been very generous with your time. I'm gonna drop you off, and I'm gonna do a quick summary here. SOBC. Thank you. I think it's $100 you dropped. No, I mean, it was $100, and the other guy came in with $500. Okay, $500, and that was you an embarrassment of riches over here, sharing the largesse. Thank you very much. You guys are far too kind. Okay, so we're gonna keep it simple. I'm simply gonna ask, because I opened up the stream today with Run. What would you guys like to hear? Battle Within or Run, or maybe something else to take us out with? As usual, 1 is for Battle Within, 2 is for Run, and 3 is you just rolling the dice for me to pick something out of the shelf over here, something else that I may have. Or maybe I'll do a freestyle or something, or maybe I'll do all the, who knows what might happen. 1 is for Battle Within, 2 is for Run, and 3 is for Chaos. Okay? Last time channel for Startup, the Econ King, Paul James, and Alex Becker. I'm assuming this is some useful information being shared over here by Dr. Mod. Freestyle. 111-333. Okay. So I think we seem to be having some. Okay. Let me see. The system is coming. The system is coming for all. They're praying and chanting and drumming. With gladness they welcome the fall. The preachers and pilgrims will pillage. The pilots will drop down their bombs. Corruption will swallow the village. With blood we shall right all our wrongs. The toil of the farmers, the work of informers, paradigms and fables hoisted upon us. Searchlight is searching, police they are lurking. Legislators from the dark side emerging. Ghetto bird word for the masses. I come fi tell the ghetto you'd say this year Roblox no fi pass this. Ghetto bird word for the children. Them terrorizing everybody we no feel them. Ghetto bird word over Zion. Reconstitute and fight that we can rely on. Ghetto bird word I call out. Ghetto bird word I ball out. The people are saying, but words have no meaning no more. Believers and preachers are praying, but God has been dead for so long. Replaced by the sign of the dollar, and nation and duty and all. They're fighting for concept and color. Aha! Neglecting the beauty of all. The work of the farmers, the toil of informers, the paradigms and fables hoisted upon us. Searchlight is searching, police they are lurking, legislators from the dark side emerging. So, that one is from, that's not released either. That's not released. That one is just from the hot takes. I may or may not release that, but that's for the, Ghetto bird word for the masses. I come fi tell the ghetto you'd say this year Roblox no fi pass this. Ghetto bird word for the children. Them terrorizing everybody we no feel them. Ghetto bird word over Zion. Reconstitute the higher height that we can gather and rely on. Ghetto bird word I call out. Ghetto bird word I ball out.
On the shore, relentless in the war. The legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest. The cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.
I travel by night and I travel by day. I feel the breeze, I feel the call, and I see the gravel and the grass by the way. I hear birds and they're mating call. The toll on the road is a small price to pay, small price to pay for the saving of the race. And so I say, aye, 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 aye. People, what you waiting for? Take one and leave one and take it to go. Make a decision and get on the road. Open your vision for the sun to shine on. Bamboo and acorn and a letter I wrote. Big ones and small ones and a pipe for a toe. The rhythms of time is the horse I ride on. I travel by night and I travel by day. Feel the breeze, I feel the call, and I see the gravel and the grass by the way. I hear birds and they're mating call. The toll on the road is a small price to pay, small price to pay for the saving of the race. And so I say, aye, 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 aye. People, what you waiting for? Will there be raindrops and rainbows so clear? Perhaps some snow angels, maybe a bear. Anticipation in the heart casts a fog upon the road. How far till the train stop? I wish I was there. I glance at the paper just to be clear. All the coming and the going that will be once was foretold. I travel by night and I travel by day. Feel the breeze, I feel the call, and I see the gravel and the grass by the way. I hear birds and they're mating call. The toll on the road is a small price to pay, a small price to pay for the saving of the race. And so I say, aye, 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 aye. People, what you waiting for? Sha-na-na-na-no, sha-na-na-na-ne, sha-na-na-na-no, sha-na-na-na-ne, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-no, sha-na-na-na-no, sha-na-na-na-ne, sha-na-na-na-no, sha-na-na-na-ne, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. I travel by night and I travel by day. Feel the breeze, I feel the call, and I see the gravel and the grass by the way. I hear birds and they're mating call. The toll on the road is a small price to pay, a small price to pay for the saving of the race. And so I say, aye, 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 aye. People, what you waiting for?